But a cloudier day in western Wales, the cloud thickening in western parts of Scotland, bit of drizzly rain here, but a wet day for Northern Ireland, some heavy bursts of rain likely here, particularly across the south. We'll see some sunny spells elsewhere with light winds, again feeling quite pleasant. Temperatures in the mid to high teens by the middle of the afternoon. Bye for now.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
We're seeing on the screen now some of the elements of the hoard. Some of the things that have been discovered have to do with transport. We've found quite a lot of wagons, haven't we, and wheels. Now, is this quite unusual?
It is, and, you know, we don't know, because we've got the iron tyres but not the wheels and the vehicles, whether these were wagons or chariots or both. But to the extent that some of them are almost certainly wagons, then that is a first for Iron Age Britain. So, you know, it's very interesting. And to find this quantity of objects together is really unusual.
Would you like to speculate on why so many objects have been found in one place?
Well, it could be that they are the remains of funeral pyres. There have been no human remains found with them, but we know that with, you know, one of the Iron Age rituals was to deface and burn objects which would then be presumably taken to the afterlife. It was at the side of the road leading up to the enormous Iron Age hill fort of Stanwick, and maybe it's something like that. I like to think of it as potentially the Appian Way in Rome, where the tombs lined the road on the way into the city, but that's a bit fanciful.
And one of the things we can deduce from this is wealth, can we not?
Absolutely.
I mean, these people have jewellery, they have sophisticated household items, and they have these vehicles which are pretty sophisticated.
Yeah, exactly.
These were rich people.
They were, and the quality of the objects, the horse bits are quite oversized compared to what we normally find, and they are embossed with coral and enamel. And that, again, is unusual and indicative of wealth and trade links as far as the Mediterranean.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, it's 3 o'clock and welcome to the Martin Daubney Show on GB News. With me, Tom Harwood, filling in for Nana Aquia, filling in for Martin Daubney. We're broadcasting from Paddington until we turn over to Nana in just a few moments' time. Now, any moment, we're expecting to hear from Sir Keir Starmer as he's announcing £300 million for offshore wind projects as part of a push to secure clean energy investment in Britain. It's all part of a summit that Keir Starmer is hosting today in the United Kingdom, attended by people from all over the world, including Ursula von der Leyen, the European Commission President, and indeed figures from other developed countries. We're looking at live pictures now of the Future of Energy Summit, where already there has been some controversy here due to a comment made by none other than the Deputy Energy Secretary of the United States. Yes, Trump's man in them, Tommy Joyce, has said that net zero policies harm human lives. This at the Energy Summit set up by Keir Starmer. Perhaps an embarrassment as the Prime Minister is still looking for that all-important trade deal with the United States. Could the UK's approach on net zero be one of the sticking points when it comes to negotiations with the Americans? Or will it all be water under the bridge? Significant, though, that this is an intervention from the Trump White House at a time when we've seen interventions from his White House on other issues, not least security in Europe. We'll remember back to the Munich summit where J.D. Vance delivered that barnstorming speech that blew the roof off that summit and changed people's thinking about how America approached European security, and indeed what America thought about the European approach to free speech and immigration. But today, the top of the agenda is energy, of course, the Future of Energy Summit. This is a big moment for the Prime Minister. It's supposed to be a moment to champion what is known as Great British Energy. Yes, that energy company that the Labour Party promised in its manifesto, that was set up upon getting into Downing Street, and now that the Prime Minister is trying to prove will be behind new clean energy projects. £300 million is the amount that's being announced today to be invested in just such projects, particularly wind farms around the United Kingdom, because this is all part of the agenda to deliver clean energy. But there's a question that has been raised here, which is if we build huge amounts of wattage of wind farms, if such wind farms are produced prodigiously around the coasts of the United Kingdom and even onshore in the United Kingdom, what happens when the wind doesn't blow? What happens when the sun doesn't shine? These are huge questions that the government doesn't seem yet to have a satisfactory answer to. Currently, the way that our grid is balanced, the way that we deal with what are known as wind droughts in this part of the world, is we fire up our gas-fired power stations. But what happens as we approach net zero, as we wind down the gas, and indeed as we stop extracting so much of our own gas from our own reserves? We've seen a windfall tax on oil and gas extraction in the North Sea, and we've seen a moratorium on fracking, that's shale gas onshore in the United Kingdom too, despite new deposits of the stuff being found almost month by month. An enormous new suspected deposit in Lincolnshire found only earlier this year. And yet, under this government, what we're seeing is those extraction wells that had begun to test under the previous government until the moratorium came along, of course, those wells being plugged with concrete. How will the Prime Minister address this? Big questions. But of course, movement here at the Energy Security Summit. We're seeing the Prime Minister coming to the podium now.
Fatty, thank you very much for those wise words and key principles. And good afternoon, everybody. It's really fantastic to see so many people here in London. Welcome to London. I'm so pleased we've got so many representatives from so many places. And in a sense, we're here for one simple reason, and that is because the world has changed. From defence and national security on the one hand, much discussed in recent months, to the economy and trade, old assumptions have fallen away. And we're living through an era of global instability, which is felt by working people as an age of local insecurity. Factory workers, builders, carers, nurses, teachers, working harder and harder for the pound in their pocket, but feeling at the same time that they have less control over their lives. And energy security is right at the heart of this. Every family and every business across the United Kingdom has paid the price for Russia weaponizing energy, and it has. But it's not just that. Because let's be frank, when it comes to energy, we are also paying the price for our overexposure over many years to the roller coaster of international fossil fuel markets, leaving the economy and therefore people's household budgets vulnerable to the whims of dictators like Putin, to price spikes, and to volatility that is beyond our control. Since the 1970s, half of the UK's recessions have been caused by fossil fuel shocks. And that's true for many of the other nations that are represented here this afternoon. So what's different today? It's not the information that we have. It's not our awareness of the problem. No. What is different now is our determination in a more uncertain world to fix it. It's our determination that working people should not be exposed like this anymore. So to the British people I say, this government will not sit back, we will step up. We will make energy a source, not of vulnerability, but of strength. We will protect our critical infrastructure, energy networks and supply chains, and do whatever it takes to protect the security of our people. Because this is the crucial point. Energy security is national security, and it is therefore a fundamental duty of government. And I'm very clear, we can't deliver that by defending the status quo or trying to turn the clock back to a world that no longer exists. Of course, I accept fossil fuels will be part of our energy mix for decades to come. But winning the fight for energy security depends on renewal. It depends on change. It depends on cooperation with others. And that's why we're all here today, so many countries, so many people and communities represented. The IEA was founded in 1974 in the midst of an energy crisis to help us work together to secure energy supplies and reduce future energy shocks. Well, that's taken on a new urgency today. So our task is clear: to act together to seize the opportunity of the clean energy transition, because homegrown clean energy is the only way to take back control of our energy system, deliver energy security, and bring down bills for the long term. And I want to tell you, that's in the DNA of my government. When we came into office last year, we knew there was no time to waste. So in our first 100 days, we launched Great British Energy as a national champion to drive investment and transform clean power. We scrapped the ban on onshore wind and became the first G7 economy to phase out coal power. And whilst we won't be turning off the taps, we are going all out through our plan for change to make Britain a clean energy superpower, to secure homegrown energy and set a path to achieving clean power by 2030. Now, I know that some in the UK don't agree with that. They think that energy security can wait. They think tackling climate change can wait. But do they also think that bill payers can wait too? Do they think that economic growth can wait? Do they think that we can win the race for green jobs and investment by going slow? That would serve no one. Instead, this government is acting now with a muscular industrial policy to seize these opportunities, to boost investment, build new industries, drive UK competitiveness, and unlock export opportunities in wind, in nuclear, in hydrogen, carbon capture, heat pumps, and so much more. That is the change that we need, and we won't wait, we'll accelerate. Because we're already seeing the benefits. The UK's net zero sectors are growing 3 times faster than the economy as a whole. They've attracted £43 billion of private investment since last July. And now they support around 600,000 jobs across the United Kingdom. That means more opportunities, more money in people's pockets. And we're going further. We've stripped out unnecessary red tape to put Britain back in the global race for nuclear energy and allow for small modular reactors for the first time. We're speeding up planning for clean energy projects, including onshore wind, to power millions of homes and unlock further investment of £40 billion a year. And it's really clear to me that investors want policy certainty. They want ambition. And that's what we're providing. And now we're raising our ambition even further. I'm really pleased to announce that we're creating a new supply chain investment fund as part of Great British Energy. It will be backed by an initial £300 million of new funding for domestic offshore wind, leveraging billions of new private investment, supporting tens of thousands of jobs and driving economic growth. When companies are looking to invest in clean energy, when partners are looking to build new turbines, blades, cables, our message is simple: build it in Britain. I'm determined to seize this opportunity to win our share of this $1 trillion market and secure the next generation of great jobs. I've met the apprentices at the docks in Grimsby, fantastic individuals. I've been to Holyhead in Wales and to the National Nuclear Laboratory in Preston. I've seen the brilliant clean power infrastructure that we are building in this country. But more than that, I've seen the pride that these jobs bring. This is skilled, well-paid work, meaningful work, a chance to reignite our industrial heartlands, to rekindle that sense of community, of pride and purpose that comes from being part of something that is bigger than yourself. So I'm pleased to tell you that I can share some more good news this afternoon. Earlier today, we finalised a deal with Eni. It will see them award £2 billion in supply chain contracts for the HyNet carbon capture and storage project, creating 2,000 jobs across North Wales and the North West. I want to thank all those here today who are part of this success story, because it's all built on stability, yes, but our ruthless focus on delivery. But it's also built on partnership. And so, let me say, it is a real pleasure today to welcome my friend, President von der Leyen. Ursula, it is so good to have you with us this afternoon. Last time we were in this building, Ursula and I stood together with other colleagues here at Lancaster House. This was just last month, about six weeks ago, standing shoulder to shoulder with President Zelensky, working together for European security. Today, we stand again together with Fatih and others and the IEA, united behind European energy security. Europe must never again be in a position where Russia thinks that they can blackmail us on energy. And until Russia comes to the table and agrees a full and unconditional ceasefire, we must continue to crack down on their energy revenues, which are still fueling Putin's war chest. This is the moment to act, and it's the moment to build a partnership with the EU that meets the needs of our time, facing up to the global shocks of recent years, and working together to minimise the impact on hard-working people. So we're doing more with the EU to improve our interconnections and make the most of our shared energy systems, as well as building on the fantastic partnerships that we already have with countries like the Netherlands, with Germany, with Norway, and so many others. We have a common and important resource in the North Sea, which can help us meet common challenges. Now, to me, this is just common sense. So let's seize this potential to drive down bills, drive up investment and growth and energy security. I was elected with a mandate to deliver change. So I make no apologies for pursuing every avenue to deliver in the national interest and secure Britain's future. That is always my priority. And of course, this has to be a global effort as well. We need to see a wider coalition that unites the North and South in a global drive for clean power. And that's why I launched the Global Clean Power Alliance at the G20 last year, working alongside the EU's Global Energy Transitions Forum. And that's why we're joining forces to take this forward. We want to tackle the barriers and bottlenecks that are holding countries back. So I'm pleased to announce today that under the Global Clean Power Alliance, we're establishing a first-of-its-kind global initiative to unblock and diversify clean energy supply chains. We're harnessing the political leadership needed to make this happen. Because ultimately, that is what this is about, leadership. In this moment of instability and uncertainty, when we're buffeted by global forces, we are taking control. We are working together with partners from around the world, with the IEA and all of you here today, to accelerate this vital global transition. And in the UK, we're stepping up now to make energy a source, not of vulnerability and worry, which it is at the moment and has been for so long, but a source of strength, of security and pride, with British energy, powering British homes, creating British jobs, a collective effort to boost our collective security for generations to come. Thank you very much. And now it is my very great pleasure and privilege to introduce President von der Leyen, my friend Ursula. Thank you so much for being here. Ursula, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, my friend. Thanks a lot. Thanks.
Well, as much as we would love to hear from the European Commission President and close personal friend of Sir Keir Starmer, I think we're going to dip out now and get some reaction with our GB News political correspondent, Catherine Forster. Catherine, a lot there to go through. £300 million for this supply chain investment fund, building new wind farms and the components for those wind farms, also billions for carbon capture projects, and the admission that fossil fuels will be with us for decades to come. Your reaction?
On energy security and more generally.
Yes, well, take back control. It was a phrase that stuck out to me. Remember the Brexit slogan, take back control. The Prime Minister said that homegrown clean energy is the only way to take back control of our energy security and bring bills down. That's a very different approach, of course, to what we're seeing in the United States, where President Trump wants to drill, baby, drill. Now, we have realised, too, that we cannot be reliant on other countries for energy. The Prime Minister said we must never again be in a position where Russia can blackmail us. So, yes, this is about getting to net zero. Yes, this is about climate change. But really the focus at this summit is on two things. It's on jobs and it's on security. On security, the Prime Minister says energy security is national security, that we can't be relying, as we have previously before, on getting energy from wherever and whoever at whatever cost. I thought it was interesting that he was pointing out, too, that since the 1970s, half of recessions have been caused by fossil fuels shocks. The government wants to get away from that, but also the government is really keen to sell this as something that's going to bring jobs. This government doesn't see the move to clean power as a threat to the economy, as a threat to living standards. It sees it as an opportunity. It sees it as a way to get jobs, to get new industries in to the country. So,
and yet, when people look at the prices,
sectors.
When people look at the prices in the United States versus the prices in Europe, one which has gone hell for leather for an all-in energy policy. The United States, of course, lots of oil, lots of gas, even coal, as well as wind and solar. And you look at Europe, which has said no to fracking its own gas, which is winding down on oil, which has banned nuclear power in many European countries too. Clearly, energy is more expensive in Europe than it is in the United States.
Yes, and energy in the UK, electricity particularly, I think is the most expensive in the G7. I think it's something like 4 times the price that it is in the United States and double what it is in Europe. It's very, very expensive. Now, Ed Miliband would say that it's because it's linked to wholesale gas prices. Others would say it's linked to basically money being put on bills for net zero investment and so on and so forth. But certainly, you know, we have been asleep at the wheel, really, in terms of energy. Think back to Nick Clegg saying back in 2010 about, oh, well, let's not bother with nuclear because it takes 10 years to build a nuclear power station. Well, the French had a very different idea, and no wonder, you know, EDF, we use it here, but it's owned by France. So now the government's talking about small nuclear modular reactors. All of these things, of course, take time. And I do think in the short term, change is hard. Change is very expensive. In the long term, of course, ultimately prices might come down. But I think we're getting a very, very bumpy ride in the meantime.
Certainly. Just while we have you, Catherine, interesting personal relationship developing now between Ursula von der Leyen and Keir Starmer. He mentioned that it was only not so long ago that the two leaders were in the same building, Lancaster House, talking about Ukraine. In just a week ago, Ursula von der Leyen wrote a gushing, glowing appraisal of Keir Starmer in Time magazine, making him one of Time magazine's 100 People of the Year. The very unusual step taken that a foreign leader wrote the appraisal of Keir Starmer there. I mean, this is quite the blossoming relationship.
Yes, it is. And he referred to her twice as his friend, didn't he, in that speech? But, you know, Sir Keir Starmer has made it very, very plain since before the election that Labour wants a closer relationship with the European Union. They are looking to work more together on security. They want a security and defence deal that might involve some erosion of our fishing rights. And, you know, we're still hearing these heavy rumours of some sort of mobility, EU youth mobility scheme. Now, the government does not want to be drawn on it, but rumblings that it might be sort of for the under 30s for up to a year. We know that that's something that the EU would absolutely love to see, you know, and the Treasury thinks that would help with growth. But of course, we have sky-high immigration figures. It may not go down very well with everyone.
Certainly. Well, Catherine Forster, a lot to digest there. Thanks indeed for joining us and looking at that interesting speech there from the Prime Minister. We're going to now go for further discussion with the Director of Net Zero Watch, Andrew Montford, and the Co-Director of the Climate Majority Project, Liam Kavanagh. Liam, we're going to start with you. You must be delighted with what the Prime Minister is saying today.
I don't find very much to disagree with what he said there. I mean, certainly national security is an issue, and climate change and national security are intertwined. So what I might have liked to have heard him say something about adaptation and the amount of work Britain also has to do to adapt to climate reality, along with the energy policy that they're pursuing. But it's a very good start to be so determined with energy policy. We need investment. I think Wall Street returns are showing what happens when you flip-flop on policy every other day. in response to what Trump has been doing. The underinvestment in infrastructure is largely due to policy flip-flops the last few years. So,
Liam Kavanagh, thanks for your opening gambit. Andrew Montford, you're not looking like quite such a delighted man this afternoon.
No, that was a bit of a shambles, I thought. It was internally contradictory, and, it really bodes very badly for consumers in this country. I mean, if you take, first of all, his line about energy security, he's saying, we don't want to rely on foreign countries for our supply of fossil fuels, which he says we must have for decades to come. But he's busy closing down the oil and gas industry in this country. He's taxing the North Sea at 78%, and he's just concreted up our only shale gas wells. So, that's making us more dependent on foreigners for fossil fuel supplies, vital fossil fuel supplies, than less. Absolute nonsense. I mean, he's announced some more spending. I mean, there's this £300 of bungs for wind farms. I mean, he's announced that money before. This isn't new. He's just trying to look like he's doing something.
OK, let's pause there and throw some of those points over to Liam Kavanagh. Liam, it is true to say that the Prime Minister said that we will need oil and gas in some form for decades to come. Isn't it better that that's extracted here at home than being reliant on those foreign dictators that you and Keir Starmer and no doubt Ursula von der Leyen as well have been talking about?
Yeah, I mean, not really, because oil is a global market, right? So the question there is, do we really expect that there's going to be a choke point on global oil distribution so much that we can't get our hands on any? And why not keep your own reserves untouched for that time anyways, right? The U.S. had a strategic oil reserve for decades, precisely because the idea was, well, let's keep something in the ground in case we need it, right? So I don't think drilling here increases security at all. I think that the opposite is true.
Hang on, doesn't it take a little while to get an oil well up and running? I mean, if there's a war tomorrow, which I'm sure is what people are thinking about in terms of having a strategic oil reserve, surely more wells being found, being prepared, would be better in that situation, not worse.
It's very unlikely that every source of petrol in the world is shut off. So, I mean, the only way that might happen is if you, at this point, unless the Chinese Navy suddenly takes control of the world's seas, is if you get into the war with the United States. So hopefully we aren't in a war with the U.S. If that happens, we're in major trouble. But I don't see that happening.
Never rule anything out. If he's going to invade, if he's going to invade Greenland, if he's going to invade Panama, I mean, maybe Canada's next. Maybe we'd be all drawn in. OK, let's not go too far in a flight of fancy here. Andrew Montford, I want you to respond to some of these points that there will always be a friendly supply of oil. The point is, I suppose, moving more of our domestic energy requirement off oil and onto renewables.
Well, I mean, there will be friendly suppliers, but of course, if you have the supply cut, as we did during the Ukraine war, then the price goes through the roof. And, if you don't have your own domestic supplies, then you're stuck, really. And also, you're giving away all those tax revenues, all those jobs. So, yeah, it's a nonsense way of doing things. Instead, we're going to go for renewables, which have doubled the price of electricity in the last 20 years. And, they're adding 30 or 40 pounds a year in policy costs alone every year. So what Mr. Starmer is saying, or implying, is that essentially people are going to have to put up with rising electricity prices for the foreseeable future. It's quite interesting. He doesn't talk about, you remember during the election, he said he was going to reduce your energy bills by £300. Well, now they've gone up by £300 so far. And he's now in that speech talking about energy, energy bill savings for the long term. So what he's doing is he's kicking any hope of lower energy bills way down the road into the future. So expect things to get a lot worse.
Well, gentlemen, I wish we had more time, but that's all we've got time for. Liam Kavanagh of the Climate Majority Project and Andrew Montford of the of Net Zero Watch. Thanks indeed for joining us this afternoon. Now, moving on, it's more than just a mess. Yes, Birmingham's bin strike is becoming a health emergency. A once secret council dossier reveals shocking risks from disease outbreaks to mental health fallout too. Let's cross to our reporter Jack Carson, who's been following this story for us in Birmingham. Jack, this dossier now revealed.
Yes, and this is a risk assessment that was sent to bosses of Birmingham City Council, warning of the fears around emergency services not being able to get to places because of piled up rubbish, fears around rat-borne diseases spreading across the city, particularly for those who may be immunocompromised, those who are disabled, those who are elderly. They are the concerns that that was put to the council. And of course, as rubbish, the council say, is starting to be collected, 26,000 tonnes of it, they say, has been collected in recent weeks. You can still see around us there are still piles of rubbish around this city, which are meaning that problem still exists. John Gilmore, who's a local resident in this area, joins us now. John, I mean, what's your reaction to that risk assessment that reports to Birmingham City Council that there were concerns around the likes of rat-borne diseases, spreading across this city?
Well, I think the council should have had their finger on the pulse much earlier on. Obviously, with the strike taking place, and it's been going on for so many weeks, I don't know what the council thought was going to happen, and there clearly was going to be a build-up of rubbish. And we was going to have the stench and the smell, and obviously all the issues with, disease and vermin, and they really should have dealt with things much earlier on, more swiftly.
Are you concerned around public health because of what we're seeing with rubbish piling up around the streets?
Absolutely. I mean, well, where we are at the moment, we can still see this large pile of rubbish. You've got rubbish around the whole of the city that has blown into hedges, into parks from the overflowed bins. That is going to remain there. I'm not sure who's going to be removing that. That will still encourage rats, foxes and other, animals. And so you've still got a real issue with vermin and disease. And the council have got to address that issue as well, much more swiftly.
Now, do you blame the council for this or the bin workers? Because obviously they're on strike. They say they don't want to lose this £8,000 per year. That's why they're striking. Is it the council or the bin workers? Do you side with anyone in this?
Well, a lot of people I speak to are very frustrated, and their anger is towards Birmingham City Council for not taking control of the situation much earlier on. We had an issue several years ago where binmen were on strike, and nobody within the country wants to lose financial money with the cost of living, food prices, energy costs. So no one wants to suffer in that way. But the council need to negotiate effectively and really resolve the situation. But it's the residents of the city that are the victims, along with the city itself, because the reputation that it's had from these terrible images and scenes of the excessive rubbish build-up.
All right, John, thank you so much for joining us, a local resident here, giving us those views. The council are going to engage in negotiations next week from the 1st and 2nd of May, now with the mediator ACAS, to try and get this dispute resolved.
OK, Jack Carson, let's hope that they do stat, although we've been saying that for the last month and plus. But there's still much more to come between now and 4 o'clock here on GB News. Yes, Jamie Vardy will leave Leicester City at the end of the season after 13 years. I'll speak to another Foxes legend shortly. And, of course, the woman you've been waiting for, Nana Aquia, will at some point turn up too. But first, here's your latest headlines with Tatiana Sanchez.
Tom, thank you very much. The top stories. Whilst Sir Keir Starmer has told an energy summit in London that the world has changed and that energy was at the heart of the global insecurity and local insecurity people were feeling. He spoke alongside the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen. The two leaders will discuss a defence deal on the sidelines of that summit. It comes as the Prime Minister announced £300 million of funding for domestic offshore wind supply chains as part of a push to secure clean energy investment in the UK. The Prime Minister earlier said the fast-tracked funding would create jobs and strengthen UK security, as he called for international investment in British clean energy. Elsewhere, a student has been killed in a knife attack at a French secondary school. 3 other students were also injured at the Notre Dame de Toutes Aides in Nantes, western France. The attacker, reported to be a 15-year-old student, was overpowered by teachers before officers arrived, according to a police spokesperson. There is no indication of a terrorist motive at this stage. And thousands more mourners have flocked to the Vatican today to pay their respects to Pope Francis as he lies in state. Viewing hours were extended overnight in order to accommodate the huge crowds gathering outside St. Peter's Basilica. Many more are expected to do so whilst the coffin remains there until the Pope's funeral on Saturday. Meanwhile, concerns around respect have now been raised as people have been seen taking selfies and going live on TikTok whilst standing next to the coffin. The pontiff died on Monday after battling double pneumonia. He was 88. Those are the latest headlines for now. More from me in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to news alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Done.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
And here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.3315 and €1.1697. The price of gold is £2,487.95 per ounce. And the FTSE 100 is at 8,374 points. Done.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report. Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The A726 is restricted eastbound at the College Milton Rail Bridge due to planned maintenance. Drivers are advised to exercise caution. In West Sussex, a traffic incident on the M23 northbound between junction 10A and junction involves lane closures, causing 30-minute delays. Cambridgeshire drivers should note congestion on the A14 westbound between junction 18 Spaldwick East and junction 16 Catworth. In Walsall, congestion affects the M6 southbound between junction 11 and junction 10, resulting in 20-minute delays. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Can you find love in your twilight years? That's what we're asking this morning. Broadcaster Ryan Mark Parsons and former Conservative MP Anne Widdecombe join us now. Good to see you both this morning. Anne, let's start with you. Is 70 too old to date, do you think?
70 isn't too old for anything.
Oh.
Everybody ages at different rates, both mentally, physically, in the sorts of things they like. When you say to me, is 80 too late to, is 70, well, we might even say 80, it's too late to find love. The answer is just look around you. Lots of people have. But let me say right away, no, that's not an invitation. I've absolutely no ambitions in that area at all.
Ryan Mark, what do you make of it? Do we need to stop putting a bar on ageing and dating?
No, I don't think we should. I think once you get to such an old age, you really should be looking for love internally. I mean, you should self-love. I just don't see the point at 70 years old to be searching for love at that point. I think you should go on a holiday somewhere. I think you should find love with the sunshine and a cocktail, perhaps, instead of looking for a man or a woman. I think at what point do you decide that you know, love is not going to come around knocking on your door? And I think probably at the age of 70, that is when you should decide it's time to give up. I'm 24, living in London. I know how incredibly hard it is to find love. I don't know how anyone who has wrinkles and grey hair at the age of 70, over someone like me, could perhaps find love. I just don't think it's possible. I think it's a nice idea, but I think it's not feasible. And also, I don't think there's any point at that age.
The People's Channel.
Welcome back to the Martin Daubney Show. My name's Tom Harwood, just filling in for the moment here on GB News. Now, Premier League striker Jamie Vardy will leave Leicester City at the end of this season. Vardy played a huge part in the club winning the Premier League back in the 2015-16 season, as well as also earning a total of 26 caps for England. Speaking in a video on Leicester's Twitter account, the striker reminisced about his time at the club.
Gutted that this day is coming, but I knew it was going to come eventually. I had 13 unbelievable years at this club with lots of success, some downs, but the majority all highs.
Well, joining me now is former Leicester City striker Steve Claridge. And Steve, really the end of an era today.
Yeah, very much so. There'll be a lot of supporters of Leicester with heavy hearts, I've got to say. Yeah, the memories that he's left are incredible. I mean, who would have believed that? And none more so than him playing the part that he did and then winning the Premier League was obviously a memory that no one could forget.
Absolutely, although that was some time ago now, and the fortunes of Leicester haven't been so rosy in recent years and recent months. Could that be informing his decision, perhaps?
Yeah, quite possibly. I mean, it's always easier when a club is doing well for them to keep you on and obviously to look after you, and it's always easier playing a good side rather than it is, you know, in a side that's really, really struggling, especially when you get to his age. I think what I found when I played later on in my career was you get to a point where people almost write you off before you begin because of your age, which makes it, you know, difficult in itself. And then to really keep proving yourself at the top level, you know, particularly in a side that isn't doing well, is very, very difficult for a striker in particular. So you can see just on watching on the Twitter feed that he did, that you know, there's a huge amount of emotion going behind what he's saying.
Yeah, I mean, 13 years at a club, such a bond, such an association, not just with him and his teammates, but I think the whole country, any football fan, really feeling that Jamie Vardy is so linked to Leicester. I mean,
Absolutely.
What happens next?
Well, firstly, if his missus keeps doing what she's doing, he's going to have to play till he's 50, I should think. But I think, look, I don't see him packing in. I think we'd have known that already. So I don't see him packing in. What I do see is it's very important that he gets the next decision right. You know, because at his age, as I say, it's not a gimme that he's just going to go somewhere and everything's going to be great. But he's the type of footballer that you think really has a passion for the game. Some players give up and they give up and they're pleased to give up. I was one of those that couldn't give up. And I think he sort of gives me that impression that he's a little bit like that, where without football, there'll be a huge hole in his life.
So if you're a betting man, Steve, where would you say Jamie Vardy's going to go next?
I'd say probably to a top championship side. I know that's sort of the situation he's going to find himself in, but it might just be that a change is as good as a rest. And he feels like, you know, it might just be that he just needs one last challenge, you know, and he's got to pick the right club to do that at.
Yeah, because, of course, it's not just about who he's playing with. It's sort of the meaning behind the club. I mean, the geography of the club, the associations that the club has as well. It's going to be such a difficult decision for him. But do you think he'll have a wide array of options?
I think he will. I mean, with his experience, you know, when you're a young lad, you don't understand what particular clubs bring, you know, and what particular fans bring. So if you're going to go somewhere, you want to go somewhere that's, you know, you're going to know at half time if you're 3 up or 3 down sort of touch. You know, you want passion. You want people who feel the same way as you do about the game. You know, it's important that, you know, you win. It's important. It makes a difference to people's lives. So you really want to be going to a club that's the sort of impact that you can make. And that's why you play football. You know, the money is irrelevant to him now. It's all about, you know, that what he can achieve, what, you know, what the atmosphere and everything that it brings, that football club can bring with it.
OK, well, Steve Claridge, former Leicester City striker, thanks so much for joining us. We're just cutting to live pictures here now of Downing Street, where Keir Starmer and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen have just arrived there in the sunshine through that famous shining black number 10 door now, and the feed has just cut off. That was a fast hop, skip and jump from Lancaster House just down the road, where they were speaking at the Energy Security Summit earlier. The Prime Minister first spoke, followed by Ursula von der Leyen, and it's interesting looking at their relationship, looking at the burgeoning relationship between Keir Starmer and Ursula von der Leyen. They're seeing quite a lot of each other at the moment, and perhaps they'll be seeing each other more, well, on the 19th of May. That's the date for your diary when there's another UK-EU summit hosted here in the UK, when all sorts of deals could be signed, from fishing to security to perhaps even a youth migratory scheme. But if you're a youth who wants to migrate, or perhaps even slightly someone who is past their youth who wants to migrate, here's the travel weather.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries, all sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
An unsettled spell of weather over the next few days across southeastern parts of Europe. Heavy showers and thunderstorms, but elsewhere mostly settled, plenty of sunshine. The odd shower affecting parts of Greece, also the Adriatic coastline. These could be heavy and thundery, but as we shift our way further west, mostly settled thanks to the Azores high, plenty of sunshine, though it just could be quite breezy at times across Madeira and Tenerife. The heavy showers are set to continue into Saturday, but from Sunday, lots of sunshine and feeling warm in that sunshine too.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Afternoon, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. For many, it's been another dry day. We are going to see a change overnight, though, particularly for Northern Ireland, where some wet weather is edging its way in. And once it's arrived, we're going to last for most of tomorrow. Some of that light rain will just graze into Pembrokeshire, maybe the odd spot for Cornwall too. The cloud thick enough for a little bit of drizzle at times on the eastern coast, but for most it's going to be a dry, fine evening, staying dry overnight. Some mist and fog patches are likely to form, and it will turn quite chilly. Well, we've got these clear skies, temperatures down well into single figures, and possibly in rural spots even a touch of frost. Not frosty in Northern Ireland, but it will be a soggy old day here on Friday. Rain on and off, some of it on the heavy side. Some of that rain will try and creep into Cornwall and Pembrokeshire, maybe Anglesey too and the Clean Peninsula, but generally across England and Wales it's dry. Quite a grey start across these eastern areas, quite breezy in Northern Ireland, as well as those pulses of rain, which will just brush into western Scotland too. So the west coast here likely to see some rain and drizzle on and off, and that rain is going to get more persistent over the Outer Hebrides through the day. The clouds across these eastern areas should break up as we go through the day to reveal some spells of sunshine, and as I said, most places will stay dry, but it will be a very soggy day for Northern Ireland. Some quite heavy bursts of rain likely, especially in the south, and the rain pepping up in western Scotland too. So feeling quite cool here, feeling quite cool on some North Sea coast where temperatures could struggle, but for many, with a bit of sunshine, temperatures getting into the mid or even high teens, feeling quite pleasant with some sunny spells. Now that cloudier zone just edges a bit further east for Saturday, so quite grey for a good chunk of Scotland, Wales, the Midlands, South West England. There'll be some showers. A drier day for Northern Ireland, staying largely fine across eastern England with some sunny spells. And again, feeling quite warm when the sun's out. Temperatures getting into the mid to high teens for many places, and some warmer weather certainly across the south by the time we get to Sunday.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Well, good afternoon to you, Nana. Yes, we've been hearing from Dr. Alfieri, who is one of the doctors who's been looking after Pope Francis when he was in hospital in February and in March. And he's revealed to Italian press those final moments of Pope Francis on Monday morning. He says he got a call at around 5:30 a.m. telling him to come quickly to the Vatican. He says he arrived within 20 minutes to find Pope Francis lying in bed with his eyes open. He said he didn't respond to his name and that he was in a coma. He then said that that led to irreversible heart failure and an unexpected stroke. But he said that that stroke was one of a kind that meant he would slip away within the next hour, and he knew then that there was nothing that he could do. He said that those close advisors to Pope Francis were suggesting that perhaps he should be rushed to hospital, but this doctor knew that there was nothing else that could be done and that he would be carried away very quickly after that stroke. He also gave some detail to Italian press about the last few days of Pope Francis's life, and many people have been commenting in the past few days, Nana, about the fact that Pope Francis had been ignoring doctors' request for bed rest. He'd been told to stay in bed for 2 months, and obviously heeded no advice to that. He was out working, he was visiting prisoners last Thursday, he was at Easter Mass on Sunday. In fact, he was in his Pope-mobile. He was being carried babies, he was blessing babies just on Sunday morning. But this doctor says actually he didn't put himself in any danger, and he knows that that brought Pope Francis so much joy. He really enjoyed being among the people. He did, though, express one last regret to this doctor. He told this doctor that at the prison on Thursday that he visited, one of those last public appearances, he wasn't able to wash the feet of the prisoners. He told this doctor, I simply wasn't able to, but it is one of his regrets. And he says, this doctor, that that is the last thing that Pope Francis ever told me. And I think, Nana, that people can take real comfort, especially Catholic believers around the world, can take real comfort in this interview that this doctor has given. He's confirmed that the death of Pope Francis was quick and it was virtually painless. So that is of comfort to many, many people. And it also shows, these comments, that this truly was the people's Pope. He wanted to be with his people, he wanted to be out working, and he wanted to be with his flock. And we can see that even in his choices now in death. He's in that simple open coffin. He's on floor level inside St. Peter's Basilica as he lies in state. He's leaning towards the pews. He wants to be with the people once more. He truly is the people's Pope. And we can see, Nana, with those long queues of people, that he is a very popular Pope as well, a much loved Pope.
Well, there were a lot of people, though, taking selfies and, just live streaming the event that they were at, obviously, this particular thing. Have they been asked to do anything? Has anyone approached these people and asked them not to behave in that manner or be more respectful?
Yes, Nana, it seems like the Vatican are really trying to clamp down on this quickly, as it caused alarm and distress around the world. People seeing people taking selfies and streaming live on TikTok near that open casket with the remains of the late Holy Father. But the Vatican is now asking people to stop taking photos. In fact, we've been speaking to people who've just been leaving St. Peter's Basilica, and they're being told as they get close to the open coffin that photos are strictly prohibited. After the Vatican News posted a photo last night showing a sea of phones, there was alarm around the world. But I can tell you now, Nana, that it does seem that the Vatican are trying to get a handle on this.
All right, Ellie Costello, thank you. Coming up, as the Prime Minister cozies up to the EU, President Ursula von der Leyen will have Prime Minister now bow down to Brussels. I'm Nana Aquia. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Afternoon. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. For many, it's been another dry day. We are going to see a change overnight, though, particularly for Northern Ireland, where some wet weather is edging its way in. And once it's arrived, it's going to last for most of tomorrow. Some of that light rain will just graze into Pembrokeshire, maybe the odd spot for Cornwall too. The cloud thick enough for a little bit of drizzle at times on the eastern coast, but for most it's going to be a dry, fine evening, staying dry overnight. Some mist and fog patches are likely to form, and it will turn quite chilly. Well, we've got these clear skies, temperatures down well into single figures, and possibly in rural spots even a touch of frost. Not frosty in Northern Ireland, but it will be a soggy old day here on Friday. Rain on and off, some of it on the heavy side. Some of that rain will try and creep into Cornwall and Pembrokeshire, maybe Anglesey too, and the Clean Peninsula, but generally across England and Wales it's dry. Quite a grey start across these eastern areas, quite breezy in Northern Ireland, as well as those pulses of rain, which will just brush into western Scotland too. So the west coast here likely to see some rain and drizzle on and off, and that rain is going to get more persistent over the Outer Hebrides through the day. The clouds across these eastern areas should break up as we go through the day to reveal some spells of sunshine, and as I said, most places will stay dry, but it will be a very soggy day for Northern Ireland. Some quite heavy bursts of rain likely, especially in the south, and the rain pepping up in western Scotland too. So feeling quite cool here, feeling quite cool on some North Sea coast where temperatures could struggle, but for many, with a bit of sunshine, temperatures getting into the mid or even high teens, feeling quite pleasant with some sunny spells. Now that cloudier zone just edges a bit further east for Saturday, so quite grey for a good chunk of Scotland, Wales, the Midlands, South West England. There'll be some showers. A drier day for Northern Ireland, staying largely fine across eastern England with some sunny spells. And again, feeling quite warm when the sun's out. Temperatures getting into the mid to high teens for many places, and some warmer weather certainly across the south by the time we get to Sunday.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Motorists are advised to approach the A726 eastbound at College Milton Rail Bridge with caution due to continuous planned maintenance. The A48M westbound is closed for resurfacing work between the M4 junction 29A at St Mellons and the M4 junction 29 at Castleton, with diversions in place. Stay up to date at gbnews.com for more travel news.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here
We do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, even. It's just coming up to 4 o'clock. This is GB News. Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show with me, Nana Aquia. We're broadcasting live from the heart of Westminster and all across the UK. Coming up, Sir Keir Starmer backs offshore wind with a whopping £300 million of public cash, as he told leaders that the world has changed. But not everyone is impressed by Labour's Green Crusade to reach net zero by 2029.
None of this, I think, has been fully thought through. I think Ed Miliband has a religious fervour for achieving net zero, regardless of the consequences.
And the Prime Minister cozies up to EU President Ursula von der Leyen as pressure is piled on Britain to open doors to young Europeans for a trade boost. Is this the great Brexit betrayal? Will Sir Keir Starmer bow down to Brussels? Birmingham face a public health crisis as the bin strikes continue. The true scale of the problem being disclosed for the first time in a secret council dossier. So are we in for a flurry of rat-borne diseases from the squeaky blinders? And a win for common sense. Transgender women are banned from the female pool category after the landmark ruling that the legal definition of a woman is based on biological sex at last. I'll be joined by one of Britain's top pool players, Lynn Pinchers, who refused to compete until now. I mean, seriously, what took them so long? Well, listen, I want to hear. Send me your thoughts, your comments at gbnews.com/your say. But first, let's get your latest news headlines with Tatiana Sanchez.
Nana, thank you very much. The top story. Sir Keir Starmer has told an energy summit in London that the world has changed and that energy was at the heart of the global insecurity and local insecurity that people were feeling. He spoke alongside the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen. The two leaders will discuss the defence deal on the sidelines of the summit. It comes as Sir Keir Starmer announced £300 million of funding for domestic offshore wind supply chains as part of a push to secure clean energy investment in the UK. The Prime Minister earlier said the fast-tracked funding would create jobs and strengthen UK security as he called for international investment in British clean energy.
When it comes to energy, we are also paying the price for our overexposure over many years to the rollercoaster of international fossil fuel markets, leaving the economy and therefore people's household budgets vulnerable to the whims of dictators like Putin, to price spikes and to volatility that is beyond our control.
In other news, a student has been killed in a knife attack at a French secondary school. 3 other students were also injured at the Notre Dame de Toutes Aides in Nantes in western France. The attack, reported to be a 15-year-old student, was overpowered by teachers before officers arrived, according to a police spokesperson. There is no indication of a terrorist motive at this stage. Elsewhere, thousands more mourners have flocked to the Vatican today to pay their respects to Pope Francis as he lies in state. Viewing hours were extended overnight in order to accommodate the huge crowds gathering outside St Peter's Basilica. Many more are expected to do so whilst the coffin remains there until the Pope's funeral on Saturday. Meanwhile, concerns around respect have now been raised as people have been taking selfies and going on TikTok live while standing next to the coffin. The pontiff died on Monday after battling double pneumonia. He was 88. US President Donald Trump has further criticised Ukraine's President Zelensky, accusing his counterpart of making it, quote, difficult to settle the war with Russia. The US president also went as far as to say that Zelensky is prolonging the killing field as he urged him to get a deal done.
I think we have a deal with Russia. We have to get a deal with Zelensky, and I hope that Zelensky, I thought it might be easier to deal with Zelensky. So far, it's been harder.
This comes as reports from the Ukrainian Air Force state that last night Russia launched 215 drones and missiles against them, killing at least 8 people. In response to this latest attack, President Zelensky has cancelled part of his trip in South Africa in order to make his return to Kyiv. He's announced that his foreign minister will now conduct all necessary meetings in South Africa instead. Sir Keir Starmer reiterated the need for a ceasefire.
I think it's a real reminder that Russia is the aggressor here. And that is being felt by the Ukrainians as it's been felt for 3 long years now. And that's why it's important that we get Russia to an unconditional ceasefire.
Elsewhere, the Prime Minister has visited the Royal Navy's flagship aircraft carrier, the HMS Prince of Wales, as it prepares to head to Indo-Pacific. Sir Keir Starmer spoke with sailors, aviators, soldiers and Royal Marines aboard the vessel, which set off from Portsmouth on Tuesday. From London, it'll now travel to the Mediterranean, Middle East, Southeast Asia, Japan and Australia on an 8-month voyage accompanied by escort ships from international allies. Speaking from the visit, Sir Keir Starmer addressed the significance of the deployment.
It's hugely important for the UK to play a leading role, as we are playing on this deployment, because it shows our capability, it shows our sense of global leadership on defence and security, but also on trade and the economy. We're a free trading nation. It's a UK sense of our leadership, a message to our adversaries, but also an important UK message to our allies.
In other news, the Liberal Democrat Party says playing music out loud on public transport should be made illegal. Led by Sir Davey, the party says that culprits should face fines of up to £1,000 if they're caught. As a result, the party are now attempting to amend the bus service bill currently making its way through the House of Lords in order to outlaw playing music and videos out loud from a phone on public transport in England. And Premier League striker Jamie Vardy will leave club Leicester City at the end of the season. Vardy played a huge part in the club winning the Premier League back in the 2015-16 season, as well as also earning a total of 26 caps for England. It was confirmed the club will be relegated to the Championship at the end of this season, following a 1-0 defeat against Liverpool. Speaking in a video on Leicester's X account, the striker reminisced on his time at the club.
Gutted that this day is coming, but I knew it was going to come eventually. I had 13 unbelievable years at this club with lots of success, some downs, but the majority all highs.
And those are the latest GB News headlines. For now, more news from me in half an hour.
Well, thank you very much, Tatiana. Now, Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer has reconfirmed his government's commitment to clean energy, as has King Charles, who says move to get greener will make countries more resilient and secure. But should he just stay out of it? Let's remind ourselves of what Ed Miliband's Green Crusade to reach net zero by 2029 is estimated to cost us. So let's talk about creation of GB Energy, £8.3 billion. He said, I'm sure in that speech, Keir Starmer was telling us how much cheaper everything would be. Energy, control of electricity systems operators, £630 million. And the National Wealth Fund, £7.3 billion. International climate funding, £11.6 billion. Then, of course, let's not forget the Drax power plant funding, £44 billion even. Decarbonising homes, £3.4 billion. Automotive transition to net zero, £2 billion. Excuse me. And EV charging systems, £200 million. But that's not all. Electric vans for plug-in vehicle grants, £120 million. 11 new hydrogen projects, £2 billion. Tackling global deforestation, £239 million. The total, an eye-watering £37 billion. But maybe there's another way.
The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is drill, baby, drill.
It's about lowering bills for good.
I will approve new drilling,
A sprint for clean energy.
new pipelines, new refineries,
Take back control of our energy system.
new power plants, new reactors.
But it is not climate leadership is a threat to our economy is going slow.
We will get the job done. We will create more electricity.
We need to build this clean energy infrastructure.
We're going to drill, baby, drill.
Is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
Yes, that's your money blowing in the wind. Let's bring in GB News' political correspondent, Catherine Forster. Catherine, good to talk to you. So we heard Sir Keir Starmer's speech earlier. He talked about energy security being at the heart of global insecurity. But part of it, he blamed part of this for Russia weaponising energy. That was only one part of the blame, of course, but tell us more about what he actually laid out, because he came up with some great ideas, some positive initiatives.
Yes, well, as that little video made clear, couldn't be more different, the British government's approach to that of Donald Trump with his drill, baby, drill. The focus all on green energy here, and the Prime Minister borrowing that Brexit slogan, take back control. He said that homegrown clean energy is the only way to take back control of our energy security and bring bills down. Now, he was talking at this energy summit, yes, of course, about climate change and the need to tackle that, but the focus really on security, talking about the fact that too many countries have been reliant on other countries to get their energy, and that badly backfired when Russia invaded Ukraine. He said that never again must we be in a position where Russia can blackmail us. So he wants to paint this as a move towards security and also jobs, because the British government believes that the move to net zero is a huge opportunity, that the jobs of the future, the industries, can do very, very well in the UK out of these new technologies, that it will bring growth, that it will bring jobs. Many people, of course, would take a very different view on that. So Ursula von der Leyen spoke a little bit later. He referred to her twice as his friend. They've obviously got a good relationship, and they are meeting now, the pair of them having a bilat in Downing Street. The reason she's here is for this energy summit, but they'll be talking now not just about that, but also, of course, about Ukraine, about defence, because as the Prime Minister has said, the world has changed. He said we're living through an era of global instability, not just in terms of energy, but in terms of defence and in terms of the economy, with all these tariffs that Donald Trump has slapped upon the world. So lots to talk about. We'll get the details of what was said a little bit later, I expect. But they will meet again, the Prime Minister and Ursula von der Leyen, in about a month's time, when there is going to be a UK-EU summit.
I just it's utter cheek, really, in my view, listening to this, because the carbon capture scheme, the 22 billion, he announced it at the same time as a £22 billion black hole. So he wouldn't have had a clue about Donald Trump's tariffs, which, in my view, he's the President of the United States. He should do what he should do. But Ed Miliband also, Keir Starmer also said that the UK net zero is growing 3 times faster than the economy as a whole. And he talked about 43 billion that's been attracted in private investment and 600k as worth in jobs in the UK and all of that. I personally haven't seen any of it, and he doesn't seem to be taking into account how much we as the British public are paying for all of this right now. I didn't hear him mention anything about that.
Well, certainly our electricity is phenomenally expensive in the United Kingdom, something like 4 times the price that it is in the States, twice what it is in Europe. But what I would say is that the government, before it was elected, they used to talk about putting £28 billion into making Britain a clean energy superpower. That has been downgraded massively, and that £22 billion figure for carbon capture storage, sure, it's a massive amount of money, and it's a very controversial and really unproven technology at any scale. But that is £22 billion going forward over many years. I was actually with the Prime Minister before Christmas in Norway at a carbon capture and storage plant. But sure, it is experimental, but they are absolutely convinced that this is the future, and this is where we need to be putting our eggs into the clean energy basket.
But the irony of carbon capture, now I did a bit of research and wrote a monologue on it a little while ago, is that the last place it was really properly tried in Milwaukee, where they spent £14 billion. They ended up having to abandon it because it was getting so expensive. And of course, it's all the infrastructure. So they capture the carbon, there's the infrastructure to deliver the carbon to where it needs to be, underneath the seabed or wherever it is they put it. And then the fossil fuel companies who are quite happy to invest in it use these carbon pellets to actually fire into oil and gas wells to create more oil and gas wells. So I'm not sure how the government can justify this particular scheme.
Well, Norway have sort of led the world in this, but Norway, of course, have had huge revenues from oil and gas. They've got very, very rich off the back of fossil fuels. But, you know, it's not just carbon capture and storage, and I accept that that is difficult and going to be controversial and really quite new technology still, but also they're investing now in things like small nuclear modular reactors. Now, that's something that really, thinking back to Nick Clegg back in 2010, he said it's, you know, not worth investing in nuclear power because it takes 10 years to build a nuclear power station. We have had this short-term thinking, not doing stuff because it's going to take ages. There clearly is a place for nuclear power. The sun doesn't always shine, the wind doesn't always blow. We have been asleep at the wheel, really, for a long time, just thinking that we can get our energy from wherever we want, whenever we need it. And we've really paid the price for that massively following Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
All right. Well, listen, Catherine, I think it's fascinating what he's wanting. He's wanting investment, other companies across the world to invest in the UK. I think we'll find ourselves in the same boat that we've been in, beholding to another company, even if they own the infrastructure or run the infrastructure in this country. Catherine Forster, thank you very much. Right, let's cross to 10 Downing Street, where Sir Keir Starmer has been speaking with European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen.
Secretary. Ursula, it's my privilege and pleasure to welcome you to Downing Street, particularly as we come off the back of the work we've just done on energy security. And in a world which seems increasingly unstable, with an uncertain future, it is so good that we are working so closely together on so many issues, defence and security, our thinking aligned on vital issues like Ukraine, but also on trade and the economy, which again, we see the world is changing. And so I'm really pleased that we've committed to a reset of our relationship, a really important relationship, which I think will be of huge benefit to both of us, but it is hugely my privilege to welcome you here very warmly as a colleague, a fellow leader, but also as a friend, to discuss the very many issues of common concern.
Thank you very much, Keir. Indeed, it's good to meet a friend again and to be here with you. We are friends and we are Europeans. We are very like-minded. We share the same interests and the same values. We face the same challenges, but we are complementary and also in defending our democracies. And I think there are three topics which we want to raise today. The first one is indeed security and defense. We will discuss Ukraine. We are very supportive of, and thank you for the peace efforts. But since day one, we also have emphasized all the time how important it is that Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity is non-negotiable. And from day one on, we have supported together Ukraine, and we will continue to do so. We both also see that, on the other hand, at the same time, Europe has to step up its defense expenditure. We will discuss that. I very much welcome that quite a few number of countries has recently announced a substantial increase of defense expenditure, and bilaterally, of course, we will discuss and work on a strategic security and defense partnership agreement, which might pave the way then to a joint procurement and UK participation in our SAFE program. I'm very glad that we had just the energy conference. It was excellent, and indeed we discussed that the North Sea has an enormous potential to be a clean energy powerhouse. Investors since many years are waiting to start. What they need is regulatory consistency and predictability, and this is something which we can deliver. And I think the third topic we want to raise here together is the topic of migration. We share the same objective. We have always fulfilled our international obligations. We have done this in the past, we do this today, and we'll do it tomorrow. But it is us Europeans who decide on who is coming to Europe and under what circumstances, and not the smugglers and traffickers. So there's a lot
to discuss.
We have to discuss together, and in the run-up to our summit, it's an excellent ramp towards it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So that was Keir Starmer earlier speaking to Ursula von der Leyen. She is the European Commission President. Well, if you want to get more reaction, stay with us at gbnews.com or go to our website. But let's find out what campaigner Simon Francis, who's a campaigner for the Fuel Poverty Coalition, thinks about that. So, Simon, what were your thoughts on what the Prime Minister was saying earlier today?
Well, I think we absolutely have to look to more renewable energy sources. You know, one of the things that you were talking about earlier was the cost of electricity, which is far too high. That one of the reasons for that is because it's linked to the cost of gas in 98% of the cases. So what we need to do is not only invest in more renewables, but also look at reforming the energy market so that the cost of cheaper renewables comes through to the households that ultimately are suffering at the moment due to the high levels of energy bills.
So you said one of the reasons is because it's linked to the cost of gas. Isn't the other reason because it's subsidising renewable energy?
Well, another reason is because of the £500 billion in profit that the energy industry has made since the start of the energy crisis.
Yeah, but that could end up being the same way with a lot of the private companies that it sounds like will be established providing this country with renewable energy. So even though you're saying it's good for the environment, let's not fool ourselves into thinking that commercial companies will reduce the price of renewable energy for us. Why would they?
Well, under one of the schemes that exists at the moment, the Contracts for Difference scheme, that actually sets the cost of electricity. So the energy firms are locked into providing that for us. And there's a mechanism. Again, we have some concerns about how the mechanism works.
We've already got that, though. We've already got that with Ofgem.
Yeah, so what we need to see is more of that. So if there is more renewable energy being generated, it needs to be done in a way that is going to benefit the consumers.
Well, exactly, but what I'm hearing being described is exactly the same thing, but with renewable energy. So this time we'll be beholding to potentially China might own one of our wind farm companies. Someone in maybe another country might own someone in China might own something else. Do you know what I mean? We don't even make the solar panels, which is why but Ed Miliband was still prepared to go for it until I think he's had a bit of a change of heart. This is all sounding great, but we're losing our steel industry potentially if we don't sort that out. We are losing our ability to own the means of production. So even if we have renewable energy, who will own those things?
Well, that's exactly why we need to make sure that if GB Energy is going to do its job properly, but it does do that, and it does make sure that we own that and that we have the stake in those assets, and also that we have a look as well at who is running, as you rightly pointed out, the networks, the transmission firms, who owns National Grid. You know, those organisations that need to be regulated. That's where Ofgem needs to come in and make sure that we have regulation of profit, so it's not people aren't just allowing firms to profiteer at our expense at the same time that we're moving forward with more energy for households.
Well, that sounds great, but I wonder whether they put any of those deals in place, because Ed was telling us, Keir Starmer was telling us how he's attracted 43 billion in private investment since last July and supporting over 600,000 jobs. But the problem is, will those private investors end up being shareholders who'll cream the taxpayer once again? Fortune. Listen, Simon, good to talk to you. Love to talk to you for longer, but that's Simon Francis. He is a campaigner for End Fuel Poverty. Right, well, rats the size of Dachshunds, terrifying residents. It's not even funny in Birmingham as fears of a citywide pandemic continue. Stay with me. I'm Nana Aquia. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dewberry and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
And
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Welcome back. 27 minutes after 4 o'clock. I'm Nana Aquia on GB News. Now, it's more than just a mess on the streets. Birmingham's bin strike is a health crisis. A once secret council dossier reveals shocking risks from disease outbreaks to mental health fallout. So let's cross over live to GB News reporter Jack Carson. Jack, welcome. Good to talk to you. What more can you tell us about this awful crisis in Birmingham?
Well, this was a risk assessment that was sent to council bosses at Birmingham City Council, warning of a possible surge for families and residents in the city of rat-borne diseases, concerns around contamination both for land, air and water because of fly tipping, the likes of an increase in a rat population in this city, which meaning to rat urine in the water supply, but also as well, of course, people that are taking the litter not being and the rubbish not being picked up on the streets into their own own hands with burning rubbish as well. Concerns, fears around the impact it could have on residents that might be immunocompromised, those who are disabled, infants as well, people coming into contact with the likes of rat droppings and things on the streets because of the piles up of rubbish. That's what the risk assessment to the council said. Concerns around the public health in this. We've seen rubbish piling up on the streets. The council and local governments say that 26,000 tonnes of rubbish has been cleared off the streets in the past few days and weeks, but it's still, as you can see behind me with this pile of rubbish, it's still a problem in many parts of the city that this rubbish is still piling up, meaning that there is still a problem with vermin in these areas. Earlier on today, I spoke to Councillor Robert Oldham. He's the leader of the opposition at Birmingham City Council. He gave me his reaction to this report today.
As pest control experts have highlighted, as the rubbish starts to get cleared now in Birmingham, the real risk is that the rats that have spread both in size and number start migrating from the piles of rubbish to people's properties. And that's why the council need to be getting proactive in the baiting they do across the city to make sure the rat population is controlled and residents are protected from the risk of disease.
Yes, there's still concerns around the public health element here in Birmingham as these bin strike negotiations still continue now into next week. A local government spokesperson said the situation in Birmingham remains a priority, and they say we've worked intensively over the past few weeks with the council to clean the city's streets. They say with the vast majority of rubbish now collected. But in parts of the city, as you can see behind me, rubbish still piled up, still a problem, and still those concerns around public health.
All right, Jack, thank you very much. Really good to talk to you. Jack Carson in Birmingham. So could this become a full-blown health emergency? Let's bring in pest control biologist and trainer Graham Turner. Graham, there's lots of awful diseases associated with rats. Somebody told me because they don't have a bladder, they just leak urine everywhere. I don't know whether that's true or not. But what do people need to be concerned about with this outbreak of rats all over the city?
You're certainly right to say that the urine is an issue. There's a disease called Weil's disease, a type of leptospirosis, a bacterial disease that is spread in their urine. And yes, they can spread the urine far and wide. And if anything is wet, any of the rubbish is wet, then handle it only with gloves, I would recommend, because the bacteria can be picked up on your hands and you can then spread it to food you're eating or touch your lips, or if it gets in through a cut, then it can give you the disease, Weil's disease, which can affect you very badly and it can be fatal. So that is a key disease risk, but there are other diseases that they spread as well, the likes of salmonella and hantavirus and things. So yeah, in their droppings, those will be full of other bacteria. So any contamination of your hands, or if they get into buildings, then that is a serious health risk.
Because isn't hantavirus, isn't that what they think Gene Hackman's wife died of? And isn't that sort of airborne as well? Yes,
that's more airborne. That it's dry dropping. So with the hot weather we've been having, the droppings dry out. It's possible that the virus can be given off airborne if indeed those rats in that area have got hantavirus. So that is a possible problem as well.
Is there a way of sort of stopping this? Because once you get an outbreak of rats, it's very difficult to actually get rid of them. Do Birmingham have much chance in kind of stopping this from getting a lot worse?
It's going to be a phenomenal problem now to get rid of the rats once they've got established.
Yeah.
They need three things to live. They need a harbourage, somewhere to live, some shelter. They need the food and they need a water supply. And at the moment they've got all that, so they'll be breeding freely. They'll be rapidly expanding in number because they do breed very quickly, very short gestation period and a short turnaround of generations. And so the numbers will be getting out of hand, and they will then, as was correctly stated a few minutes ago, they will, if the rubbish is finally moved, they will move into people's houses. They'll find ways in through holes and faults in the houses, and they'll start stealing food where they can. And so they will cause further problems, not just from spreading diseases, but the likes of fire risks from chewing electric cables, because they do need to gnaw to keep their teeth filed down.
Oh, really? That's why they do it. And very briefly, because we're running out of time, is there anything that the people of Birmingham or anyone who has a rat infestation around them can do to keep themselves safe?
Absolutely. They need to call a pest controller to get them to come and put some controls down. And I would advise that if they've got rats in the vicinity, that they're extremely careful with their hygiene. They wash their hands regularly. They wear waterproof gloves if they're handling anything that might have got wet contamination. They're very careful not to contaminate any of the food they're eating, etc. So, yes, there's certain things they can do, but also try and keep the litter covered wherever they possibly can, so that the rats can't access any food that's in it.
All right, Graham, thank you very much. Really good to talk to you. He's a pest control biologist and a trainer. Not a rat trainer, I don't think. Right, there's lots more still to come between now and 5. Trans women are now banned from the female pool category. I'll ask one of Britain's top players, is this a win for common sense? But first, let's get your latest news headlines with Tatiana Sanchez.
Nana, thank you. The top story, Sir Keir Starmer has told an energy summit in London that the world has changed and that energy was at the heart of the global insecurity and local insecurity people are feeling. He spoke alongside the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen. The two leaders are discussing a defence deal on the sidelines of the summit as the Prime Minister welcomed Ms von der Leyen to Downing Street. It comes as Sir Keir Starmer announced £300 million of funding for domestic offshore wind supply chains as part of a push to secure clean energy investment in the UK. The Prime Minister earlier said the fast-tracked funding would create jobs and strengthen UK security as he called for international investment in British clean energy.
When it comes to energy, we are also paying the price for our overexposure over many years to the rollercoaster of international fossil fuel markets, leaving the economy and therefore people's household budgets vulnerable to the whims of dictators like Putin, to price spikes and to volatility that is beyond our control.
In other news, a student has been killed in a knife attack at a French secondary school. 3 other students were also injured in that attack at the Notre Dame de Toutes Aides in Nantes in western France. The attacker, reported to be a 15-year-old student, was overpowered by teachers before officers arrived. There is no indication of a terrorist motive at this stage. And thousands more mourners have flocked to the Vatican today to pay their respects to Pope Francis as he lies in state. Viewing hours were extended overnight in order to accommodate the huge crowds gathering outside St Peter's Basilica. Many more are expected to do so whilst the coffin remains there until the Pope's funeral on Saturday. Meanwhile, concerns around respect have been raised as people have been taking selfies and going live on TikTok while standing next to his coffin. The pontiff died on Monday after battling double pneumonia. He was 88. Those are the latest headlines for now. More from me in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. There is congestion in Warwickshire on the A5 northbound between the A444 and the M42 junction, with motorists facing 20-minute delays. In Hampshire, the M27 eastbound is disrupted between junctions 8 and 9 due to a broken-down vehicle, causing one-lane closure. Drivers should be cautious and expect delays. The A726 remains restricted eastbound at the College Milton Rail Bridge for planned maintenance. Near Cardiff, the A48M westbound is closed from M4 junction 29A St Mellons to junction 29 Castleton due to resurfacing, with diversions in place. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
very good morning to you. And if you're planning to visit one of Britain's many beauty spots next bank holiday or Easter weekend, beware of your car.
Yeah, a rising number of tourist attractions are banning coaches and some cars to help ease overcrowding.
We're here to debate if vehicles should be stopped from parking near attractions. Government Relations Manager at the Countryside Alliance, David Bean, and founder of Fair Fuel UK campaign, Howard Cox. Good morning to you both.
David, how much of a problem are tourists when there are too many of them and they bring their great camper vans and they park all their cars in a line so you actually can't see the beauty spot you went to see?
It can be a significant problem in certain areas. I'm in Scotland for the holidays, and particularly in areas such as the Highlands and Islands, there are areas that have very, very badly been affected. Even some camper vans end up getting taken out to certain places on the islands and then just abandoned after a holiday is finished.
Honestly, this is horses for courses, and to be fair, you know, I actually do believe that we need better signage, better planning, and Cameron hit the nail on the head. You can't get to these beauty spots unless you have some sort of transport to get there. And, you know, public transport is woeful across the country in these areas. Obviously, yesterday in the Berlin Gap one, you can't legislate for idiots. It needs better signage, better information, but if you take people away from it, you take income away from the community. You know, I think any organisation that's promoting a beauty spot that's making money out of it should be paying for better signage, better parking facilities, etc. I do not like the idea of cars being, you know, queuing up illegally, you could say. That's ridiculous.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. I'm Nana Akwe in for Martin Daubney. It's just gone 40 minutes after 4 o'clock. And it's the pool decision-making wave. The ultimate pool group has banned trans women from competing in the female category, citing the Supreme Court ruling on biological sex. Of course, a trans woman is a biological man. After protests, legal battles and pressure from top players, the sport says it's time for clarity. Well, I'm joined now by one of Britain's top female pool players, Lynn Pinchers, who refused to carry on playing under the previous rules. I'm just going to say it, Lynn, well done, because many people continued with this, even though you, I, most women, and even probably most men could see that on every single level, even if a man thinks he's a woman biologically, he just isn't. So it's not fair.
Absolutely.
Because sport is about biology. Lynn, talk to me about what you've been through over this, and just tell me everything, Lynn.
Well, it's been 15 months of cumulative hard work that's been put into this, blood, sweat and tears. It's been completely emotionally draining. My solicitors worked hard. Our solicitors worked extremely hard on this. The public have donated 27,000 altogether we've spent on legal fees, all publicly donated. The support has been incredible, and to finally reach a result where we've achieved our aim in that we're going to get fairness for all the women in our sport finally, and the young girls that are coming through, and it's been an emotional few days. Well, it's been emotional for a while, but yeah. This is great news. You know, the whole case has been based around basically answering the question, as in the statement we put out, whether or not pool was a gender-affected sport as per the Equality Act, and that is how you're allowed to lawfully exclude in gender-affected sports. Now, the Supreme Court judgment, as fabulous as the judgment was, it didn't change the Equality Act. It didn't change the fact that you can only lawfully exclude in gender-affected sport, and therefore it didn't change our legal case for that fact. So, without the fact that we pushed for this for 15 months and got experts to prove that pool is in fact gender affected, undoubtedly. Without that hard work, we would not be here, because the Supreme Court ruling by itself would not change it for pool. It's not going to change it for darts. It's not going to change it for any sport that isn't deemed gender affected. And they're the important words that are in the Equality Act, Section 195. So I do feel like even though we've got a great result here, winning an ultimate pool, the supreme judgment didn't really hold any weight. It's the fight that we had and the support from the public. I honestly cannot thank the public enough for their support. Every single person that's donated or ever messaged me, I have tried to message all of them back as well, which has been really difficult at times. You know, the support even from the press, some of the press, most of them, I won't mention the ones that haven't supported, but we all know who they are. Yeah, it's great news. I'm completely over the moon. And we got what we wanted. We wanted fairness. That was all this whole thing was about, was fairness.
Yeah, well, I'm really glad. What about, but some people might listen to what you've just said and think, yeah, but it isn't a gender-affected sport. You said you did all the research to prove this. What are the advantages that a biological male will have over a female in this particular sport?
Well, there are lots of advantages, and we only had to prove that there was one advantage because there shouldn't be any at all. Otherwise, it's not fair field, is it? I think one of the main advantages is the power that they have in the brake shot. Like the example I use now is my son is 10 years old. His highest brake speed is 18.82 miles an hour, and mine is 16.02 miles per hour. And he's only 10 years old, 6 stone. You know, much smaller than me, and it's in there. They have more muscles in the chest and the shoulders, and so they're able to deliver more power and straight cueing with faster twitch muscles. That's just one thing. Then you've got height added in, longer arms for reaching, longer fingers for bridging over balls. I mean, it seems ridiculous that we've had to spend 15 months of, and all of the money that's been raised, which could have gone to much greater causes, to be honest, to prove something that everybody already knew. And I really hope and pray that due to the report, and if it does get published, which I'm assuming it will in the future by the top experts that were used, that will help other sports, that report, because if pool is gender affected, then so's archery and shooting and darts and all the other ones that, because it's all a similar thing, you know, it really is. So.
Well, listen, hopefully, very briefly, because I've got to go to the travel, but I want to ask you, when are you next competing? Are you going to go back in now and start playing again?
Oh, I need a holiday.
Oh, try Rhodes, try Greece, try Rhodes. Oh, my God.
No, but seriously, I'd love to go back next year. I'm not going to do anything this year. They already have had an event this year, so I'm not going to probably compete this year because I need to practice, raise the money to compete next year as well at the same time. So, but I will be back. I'll definitely be back. At the moment, I'm going to focus on my son is playing, my 10-year-old. So I'm going to focus on watching him play and hoping he can do well in that. But just to have fun with it. I want him just to have fun because that is what sport is all about, enjoyment.
Well, listen, Lynn, it's been such a pleasure talking to you. Try going to Rhodes, Greece. Very nice. I've just come back from there. Burnt the face a bit.
I'd love to.
Yeah, but it's not too expensive either.
One of Yarmouth Caravan would do me at the moment, just for a few days.
Lynn, thank you very much, and well done. Well done.
Thank you
Lynn
very
Pinchers. She refused to carry on playing pool under the previous rules where male-bodied people could play against female, even though the sport doesn't appear to have an advantage. It actually does. If you're in search of some holiday sun, though, as Lynn was, let's have a look at the forecast of some of the top European destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
An unsettled spell of weather over the next few days across southeastern parts of Europe. Heavy showers and thunderstorms, but elsewhere mostly settled, plenty of sunshine. The odd shower affecting parts of Greece, also the Adriatic coastline. These could be heavy and thundery, but as we shift our way further west, mostly settled thanks to the Azores high, plenty of sunshine, though it just could be quite breezy at times across Madeira and Tenerife. The heavy showers are set to continue into Saturday, but from Sunday, lots of sunshine and feeling warm in that sunshine too.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Afternoon, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. For many, it's been another dry day. We are going to see a change overnight, though, particularly for Northern Ireland, where some wet weather is edging its way in. And once it's arrived, going to last for most of tomorrow. Some of that light rain will just graze into Pembrokeshire, maybe the odd spot for Cornwall too. The cloud thick enough for a little bit of drizzle at times on the eastern coast, but for most it's going to be a dry, fine evening, staying dry overnight. Some mist and fog patches are likely to form, and it will turn quite chilly. Well, we've got these clear skies, temperatures down well into single figures, and possibly in rural spots even a touch of frost. Not frosty in Northern Ireland, but it will be a soggy old day here on Friday. Rain on and off, some of it on the heavy side. Some of that rain will try and creep into Cornwall and Pembrokeshire, maybe Anglesey too and the Clean Peninsula, but generally across England and Wales it's dry. Quite a grey start across these eastern areas, quite breezy in Northern Ireland as well as those pulses of rain, which will just brush into western Scotland too. So the west coast here likely to see some rain and drizzle on and off, and that rain is going to get more persistent over the Outer Hebrides through the day. The clouds across these eastern areas should break up as we go through the day to reveal some spells of sunshine, and as I said, most places will stay dry, but it will be a very soggy day for Northern Ireland. Some quite heavy bursts of rain likely, especially in the south, and the rain pepping up in western Scotland too. So feeling quite cool here, feeling quite cool on some North Sea coast where temperatures could struggle, but for many, with a bit of sunshine, temperatures getting into the mid or even high teens, feeling quite pleasant with some sunny spells. Now that cloudier zone just edges a bit further east for Saturday, so quite grey for a good chunk of Scotland, Wales, the Midlands, South West England. There'll be some showers. A drier day for Northern Ireland, staying largely fine across eastern England with some sunny spells. And again, feeling quite warm when the sun's out. Temperatures getting into the mid to high teens for many places, and some warmer weather certainly across the south by the time we get to Sunday.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Headliners on GB News, 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, I'm Nana Akwe on GB News. Now, a Liberal Democrat council in Bournemouth has claimed it has no money for celebrations to mark the 80th anniversary of VE Day. This is despite the fact that it is advertising for a new chief executive for a salary of £205,000 a year. Well, we can now speak to the former British Army spokesperson, Major Mike Shearer. Major Mike, lovely to talk to you. Thank you for joining us. This is just disgraceful, isn't it? I mean, our war heroes, veterans, we haven't got money to spend on commemorating their sacrifice. It's shocking.
Well, you said the word, and you're right. It is a disgrace. Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole, they really should be ashamed of themselves. Politics is all about competing priorities. It's as much about the art of living as it is about the science of furnishing society with the things that they need. This is not just about a military knees up. This is celebrating the end of a war in which we secured the freedoms and democracy for Europe. This is something that we should take very seriously. And by the way, that same council is spending millions on a 20 miles per hour, furnishing the streets with 20 mile per hour signs. Come on, they should get a grip. They really need to get a grip.
It's shocking, isn't it, some of the priorities? And of course, advertising for somebody on £205,000, which is not a shy salary at all. So they've clearly got money to spend. It's just absurd.
It is absurd. Like on our Remembrance Sundays, it rings around all villages in this country. When you go home, tell them of us and say, for your tomorrow, we gave our today. We must celebrate this. Well, the people have given their blood and their lives so that we can enjoy the freedoms we have today. And this kind of stingy attitude of our council, and by the way, it was only a couple of weeks ago that the government was using dodgy language about sending our veterans to D-Day in June. Come on, somebody needs to wake it up in this council and stop being so miserly.
Yeah, well, listen, Major Mike Shearer, always a pleasure. Thank you very much. He's a former British Army spokesperson. Well, a spokesman for Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole Council said that residents were being urged to stage street parties to celebrate VE Day, to basically pay for it themselves. And the council's portfolio holder for culture, communications and customer, Andy Martin, said the following: "We are proud of Poole's history and involvement at Dunkirk during World War II and of the town's historical naval connections. We are working to enable the support community-hosted events and have received 30 applications for VE Day street parties across Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole. Will stay with me. Donald Trump has told Vladimir Putin to stop bombing Ukraine."
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Afternoon, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. For many, it's been another dry day. We are going to see a change overnight, though, particularly for Northern Ireland, where some wet weather is edging its way in. And once it's arrived, we're going to last for most of tomorrow. Some of that light rain will just graze into Pembrokeshire, maybe the odd spot for Cornwall too. The cloud thick enough for a little bit of drizzle at times on the eastern coast, but for most it's going to be a dry, fine evening, staying dry overnight. Some mist and fog patches are likely to form, and it will turn quite chilly. Well, we've got these clear skies, temperatures down well into single figures, and possibly in rural spots even a touch of frost. Not frosty in Northern Ireland, but it will be a soggy old day here on Friday. Rain on and off, some of it on the heavy side. Some of that rain will try and creep into Cornwall and Pembrokeshire, maybe Anglesey too and the Clean Peninsula, but generally across England and Wales it's dry. Quite a grey start across these eastern areas, quite breezy in Northern Ireland, as well as those pulses of rain which will just brush into western Scotland too. So the west coast here likely to see some rain and drizzle on and off, and that rain is going to get more persistent over the Outer Hebrides through the day. The clouds across these eastern areas should break up as we go through the day to reveal some spells of sunshine, and as I said, most places will stay dry, but it will be a very soggy day for Northern Ireland. Some quite heavy bursts of rain likely, especially in the south, and the rain pepping up in western Scotland too. So feeling quite cool here, feeling quite cool on some North Sea coast where temperatures could struggle, but for many, with a bit of sunshine, temperatures getting into the mid or even high teens, feeling quite pleasant with some sunny spells. Now that cloudier zone just edges a bit further east for Saturday, so quite grey for a good chunk of Scotland, Wales, the Midlands, South West England. There'll be some showers. A drier day for Northern Ireland, staying largely fine across eastern England with some sunny spells. And again, feeling quite warm when the sun's out. Temperatures getting into the mid to high teens for many places, and some warmer weather certainly across the south by the time we get to Sunday.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Maintenance on the A726 eastbound at College Milton Rail Bridge leads to restrictions. The A48M westbound is closed between M4 Junction 29A at St Mellons and Junction 29 at Castleton for resurfacing, with diversions. In Wakefield, the M1 southbound exit slip at Junction 40 has one lane closed due to a broken down vehicle, with normal traffic expected by 5:20. On the M25 anti-clockwise in Hertfordshire, between junctions 25 and 24, one lane is closed due to a similar issue, expected to clear by 5:15. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon and welcome. It's 5 o'clock. I'm Nana Akwe in for Martin Daubney. This is GB News. We're broadcasting live from the heart of London, all across the UK. Well, coming up, we'll be going live to the White House as we await Donald Trump's meeting with the Prime Minister of Norway, expecting to discuss tariffs and the small matter of world peace. As that's happening, our Prime Minister, cozies up to EU President Ursula von der Leyen as pressure is piled on Britain to open doors to young Europeans for a trade boost. Is this the great Brexit betrayal? And will Sir Keir Starmer bow down to Brussels? Keir Starmer is also backing offshore wind with a whopping £300 million of public cash. And he's told leaders at the Energy Summit today that the world has changed, but not everyone is impressed by Labour's Green Crusade to reach net zero by 2029.
None of this, I think, has been fully thought through. I think Ed Miliband has a religious fervour for achieving net zero, regardless of the consequences.
Birmingham face a public health crisis as the bin strikes continue. The true scale of the problem being disclosed for the first time in a secret council dossier. So are we in for a flurry of rat-borne diseases from the squeaky blinders? That's great. I don't write these, by the way. I want to hear from you. As ever, send me your thoughts, post your comments, gbnews.com/your say. But now, let's get your latest news headlines with Tatiana Sanchez.
Nana, thank you. The top story is Sir Keir Starmer has told an energy summit in London that the world has changed and that energy was at the heart of the global insecurity and local insecurity that people are feeling. He spoke alongside the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen. The two leaders will discuss a defence deal on the sidelines of the summit. It comes as Sir Keir Starmer announced £300 million of funding for domestic offshore wind supply chains as part of a push to secure clean energy investment in the UK. The Prime Minister earlier said the fast-tracked funding would create jobs and strengthen UK security, as he called for international investment in British clean energy.
When it comes to energy, we are also paying the price for our overexposure over many years to the rollercoaster of international fossil fuel markets, leaving the economy and therefore people's household budgets vulnerable to the whims of dictators like Putin, to price spikes and to volatility that is beyond our control.
Elsewhere, a student has been killed in a knife attack at a French secondary school. 3 other students also injured in that attack at the Notre Dame de Toutes Aides in Nantes in western France. The attacker, reported to be a 15-year-old student, was overpowered by teachers before officers arrived. There is no indication of a terrorist motive at this stage. Elsewhere, thousands more mourners have flocked to the Vatican today to pay their respects to Pope Francis as he lies in state. Viewing hours were extended overnight in order to accommodate the huge crowds gathering outside St Peter's Basilica. Many more are expected to do so whilst the coffin remains there until the Pope's funeral on Saturday. Meanwhile, concerns around respect have now been raised as people have been taking selfies and going live on TikTok whilst standing next to the coffin. The pontiff died on Monday after battling double pneumonia. He was 88. US President Donald Trump has further criticised Ukraine's President Zelensky, accusing his counterpart of making it, quote, difficult to settle the war with Russia. The US president also went as far as to say that Zelensky is prolonging the killing field as he urged him to get a deal done.
I think we have a deal with Russia. We have to get a deal with Zelensky, and I hope that Zelensky, I thought it might be easier to deal with Zelensky. So far, it's been harder.
Well, this comes as reports from the Ukrainian Air Force state that last night Russia launched 215 drones and missiles against them, killing at least 8 people. In response to this latest attack, President Zelensky has cancelled part of his trip in South Africa in order to make his return to Kyiv. He's announced that his foreign minister will now conduct all necessary meetings in South Africa instead. Sir Keir Starmer reiterated the need for a ceasefire.
I think it's a real reminder that Russia is the aggressor here. And that is being felt by the Ukrainians as it's been felt for 3 long years now. And that's why it's important that we get Russia to an unconditional ceasefire.
Elsewhere, the Prime Minister has visited the Royal Navy's flagship aircraft carrier, the HMS Prince of Wales, as it prepares to head towards the Indo-Pacific. Sir Keir Starmer spoke with sailors, aviators, soldiers and Royal Marines aboard the vessel, which set off from Portsmouth on Tuesday. From London, it'll now travel to the Mediterranean, Middle East, Southeast Asia, Japan and Australia on an 8-month voyage accompanied by escort ships from international allies. Elsewhere, the Liberal Democrat Party says playing music out loud on public transport should be made illegal. Led by Sir Ed Davey, the party says that culprits should face fines of up to £1,000 if they're caught. As a result, the party are now attempting to amend the bus services bill currently making its way through the House of Lords in order to outlaw playing music and videos out loud from a phone on public transport in England. And Premier League striker Jamie Vardy will leave club Leicester City at the end of the season. Vardy played a huge part in the club winning the Premier League back in the 2015-16 season, as well as also earning a total of 26 caps for England. It was confirmed the club will be relegated to the Championship at the end of this season, following a 1-0 defeat against Liverpool. Speaking in a video on Leicester's X account, the striker reminisced on his time at the club.
Gutted that this day is coming, but I knew it was going to come eventually. I had 13 unbelievable years at this club, with lots of success, some downs, but the majority all highs.
And those are the latest headlines. For now, more news from me in half an hour.
Right, well, lots of you have been getting in touch with your thoughts. GBNews.com/your say. Lots of people saying lots of things. James on Energy says Starmer creating a permanent energy price spike. Union Jack says Starmer is going to stop energy fluctuations. We simply pay double and it goes neither down or up, except for inflation. The man is a genius in his own mind. I'm sure he would argue that he's trying to create renewable energy for this country so we don't have to rely on Russia. And on Birmingham, Grumpy Grandad says Birmingham must be one big biohazard. Some of that rubbish has been rotting for months. How can it not be a health risk? True, although there were mattresses and things like that that I noticed which aren't normal household waste. I think some people have sort of jumped on the bandwagon. But any moment now, Donald Trump will be meeting with Norway's Prime Minister in the White House to discuss tariffs and the small issue of world peace. Joining us now is Republican commentator Nora Lee Motson. Laura, thank you very much for joining us, Laura. Now, a lot of people are going on about, Donald Trump saying that he's wrecking the markets. Everyone's saying that he is disrupting world peace. What do the Americans see? Because, of course, he's their president.
I think Donald Trump is actually a disruptor. He's changing the status quo, and he's actually trying to bring lasting peace. It's not going to be easy because it's different from how Europe has been doing things for the past 3 years. And it's not the president's job to control the markets. It's the president's job to fulfill his mandate, which he is doing. He's trying to bring back key manufacturing to the U.S. He's trying to decouple from China and not have us dependent on them so that wars of the future will be them cutting off trade to the U.S. on vital industry that we need. So he's being very bold and ambitious.
Yeah, but some people argue that the way he approaches Volodymyr Zelensky is somewhat unfair because, of course, Russia invaded Ukraine, and Ukraine is a sovereign nation of its own.
I think those are valid comments, but it doesn't have the perspective of how we got there. And that's the one thing that Trump has, is he recognizes we provoked Russia. Their red line was including or even suggesting Ukraine would be part of NATO. So we played a dangerous game of chicken with Russia, and now we saw the consequences. And for 3 years, it's been a bloody war with no winners, no winners.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with war. Nobody really wins. But the bottom line is that Ukraine is a sovereign nation, and it should be allowed to do what it likes. I don't think the UK would be happy to hear that we couldn't join an organisation because of another institution or another country who told us that we couldn't.
I understand those sentiments, but the West has made promises to Russia, and I always like to talk about the historical reference that the end of the Cold War was the West promising that NATO would not go 1 inch eastward, and that's all we've done since. Actually, it was even suggested Russia had wanted to join NATO during the time of Bill Clinton, and Bill Clinton was open for it. Nothing happened. But we have poked the bear. Innocent young men are dying, and I don't see Europeans fighting in this war. It's not their kids that are dying, so it's easy for them to say, oh, yes, it's fine, let's continue this war. Most people that I know from the Ukraine and from Russia want this war over with.
Well, I think that was under Boris Yeltsin, actually.
It was.
But if we look now, we can see Donald Trump is meeting with the Norwegian Prime Minister. They're shaking hands just outside the White House. This will be an interesting meeting. We will hopefully be able to bring you something from that meeting. Of course, they've got a lot to discuss, including world peace. I'm wondering if Donald Trump will say anything, and what he is saying. I think he just said thank you there. There wasn't much going on. They've now entered the building, and we will bring you as much as we can on that. So, Laura, what are they going to be talking about?
I think top on the agenda will be the tariffs. You know, we're starting to see a few of the dominoes start to fall, and nobody wants to be late to the party, so that will be high on the agenda. Energy. Norway, as you know, is the largest sovereign wealth fund in the world because of energy, 1.8 trillion about. And they're also large investors in the U.S. stock market. In fact, they came out, they were down 0.6%. They lost 40 billion in the first quarter. But they will be talking peace. They will be talking Russia.
OK, well, listen, Laura, thank you very much. Nora Lee Knotson joining us live. Well, let's now speak to our political editor, Christopher Hope, who will be airing an exclusive interview later. Tell us more, Chris.
That's right, Nana. Tonight on GBN tonight at 7 p.m, we have an interview with Rosie Duffield. She's the MP at the heart of this trans row debate. Of course, in Prime Minister's questions yesterday, the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, Labour MP in the July's election last year, and then quit over the row about freebies from the party last September. But before that, she'd been ostracised by the party for her position supporting women's rights in that trans debate. And in the interview, she describes a 17-minute meeting she held with Keir Starmer last May, the first meeting in 4 years. Here's what she had to say.
When did you last speak to Keir Starmer? Oh gosh, just before the election, there were months and months of negotiation about whether we could have a conversation, and one of the whips managed to get me in front of him, and I think I had 17 minutes, and that was after 4 years of trying.
So
And
May last year, May or June last year.
something like that. I couldn't exactly tell you when, probably May. And he just looked at me like I was an alien. I mean, he often does.
Rosie Duffield there, and she talks about the wider privilege she feels that senior Labour politicians feel. Duffield herself thinks she's speaking up for mums taking their daughters to sports events, worried about who they may encounter in the changing room. And quite interestingly, she did say she sees a future at some point back in the Labour Party, but not when Sir Keir Starmer is leading it.
Wow. Well, listen, Christopher, we shall look forward to listening to that. That's at 7 o'clock tonight, so make sure you tune into GBN Tonight with Christopher. Thank you. Well, moving on, the Prime Minister has been cozying up to the EU President Ursula von der Leyen. The European Commission President says talks will include migration and could pave the way for the UK joining a European security programme. Joining us now is former Labour advisor Kevin McGeer. Kevin, what does this programme mean? What are they saying that this will encompass?
Well, I mean, I think that today's energy summit, which has been principally organised by the UK, is trying to shine a light on energy security, which is something that is a common problem for pretty much all of us in the West, whether we're in the European Union or not. It's a shared problem. So there's going to be a shared endeavour. And Keir Starmer is, I think, keen to have a productive and constructive relationship with the European Union. And this is not about cozying up and trying to undo Brexit or anything like that. It's entirely pragmatic. And I think, it's very interesting. I think somebody a few minutes ago said about energy security and net zero and all the rest of it, that it can often appear as religious fervour. I think it was Nigel Farage who mentioned it a minute ago. That's absolutely right, and some people do approach it that way. But that, I don't think, is who Keir Starmer is. I think Keir Starmer is looking at these issues very pragmatically and saying, actually, energy wasn't a major problem a few years ago. It now is a major problem, partly because of resource scarcity, partly because of the very volatile situation in the Middle East, and partly, of course, because of the situation with the Russian invasion of Ukraine and the fact that Germany principally was getting all its gas from Russia. Then it wasn't, so it's competing with us and everyone else for the gas supplies that are there, up with Norway, as you were talking about a minute ago. So this issue, this thing about energy security, which wasn't there in the same way a few years ago, is now front and centre as a major issue, I think, in international relations. And Keir Starmer is keen not only that Britain leads the response to how we deal with energy security, but also does that in alignment and partnership with other European countries as well.
Yeah, but the problem with energy security was that people like Germany cozied up to people like Russia, which at the time was great, but unfortunately then there was the war. But we are now layering ourselves. Isn't he literally recreating the same situation with renewable energy? So Great British Energy making the solar panels, will have to buy them from, say, China. And the same again with the companies that may do things on our shores, on our land, but we won't own them. So once again, what we saw with British Steel, owned by a Japanese company who literally ran it to the ground, paid their investors and shareholders, because investors and shareholders will be investing into these companies, so they don't have any energy security at all. We almost lost both our blast furnaces. So how will GBN Energy be different?
I think that's absolutely right. We've often we've been in the invidious position many times in this country from the Industrial Revolution onwards, where we've pioneered a technology that's changed the world. And we've because of a lack of investment, because of a lack of regulation, because of a lack of effort, our international competitors have come in, nicked our technology, made it better, and scooted past us in the international league tables. Here's an opportunity where kind of British innovation, scientific endeavour is world leading around particularly around renewables. But you're quite right, we're in this crazy situation where when we look at solar, for example, you're right, we're buying solar panels, photovoltaic cells from China. We shouldn't be doing that at all. We should be cultivating our own supply chain in our own country to produce renewable energy for our own people and get the benefit of it.
But he's not saying that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but even if we produce our own supply chain, he's talking about calling for foreign investors. So in the end, our own supply chain within this country will be owned by another foreign provider who, at any point, if they decide to say not bother to help to build the thing because they've got their own plant somewhere in their own country where they can then force us to become beholden to them, we'll do exactly just that. I don't hear any protection on these ideas and the ownership of our own infrastructure, which is the problem that I'm having with all of this.
I think we're definitely going through a transitional phase in politics and economics where we've gone hell for leather in this country, allowing foreign investment funds, foreign governments, foreign utilities to buy up all our assets and rip us off, and that's been going on for a long time. And I think we're starting to see a turning point when we now look at that and say, let's not go down that road again. That led us to the disaster that we've got with the water companies, the disaster we very nearly had with British Steel nearly going out of business with the Chinese. We need to make sure our key assets, particularly around energy, particularly around how we keep the lights on in this country, need to be British owned and British regulated, and we need to have absolute surety that they are. And again, we've a long way to go to kind of turn this around. There's going to be a need for foreign investment in the shorter term, but I think this is not lost on Keir Starmer and the government that if we genuinely want energy security, we've got to be able to own and control our own assets, and that's not a position that we've been in this country for a very long time. And I think I just sense that we're at that kind of point now where there is a kind of a tidal shift that's taking place, and we are going to get to that point.
I think, was British Steel not owned by Jinjie, which was, I think, a Japanese company? I think, maybe I've got that wrong. Look, this all sounds great, but he's also putting money into schemes that cost a fortune. Now, I've read and researched carbon capture, which has been a failure in most places. It costs an absolute fortune. He said he's going to bring our bills down, and so far they're 5 times higher than any other country that is similar to ours. How have we managed that? And that's what we're going to be dealing with until all these so-called wonderful green ideas have been created.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, our energy bills, domestic energy bills, are 50% higher than they were pre-COVID, and a lot of that principally is down to the war in Russia, which again just comes back to this point of the world is in a very volatile place and could get more volatile in years to come.
Sorry, sort of around about before the war in Russia, the prices were still extremely high, and we had what we have here, which is a sort of cartel of energy companies who literally keep the price inflated, and our regulator doesn't seem to be able to do anything about it. How is that going to be any different just because we're using green energy? It's going to be the same thing, but with green energy, isn't it?
Well, I mean, the point of renewable energy is that Britain is the windiest country, for example, in Europe, and it's a great, huge natural resource that that we are beginning to exploit. We weren't doing this really effectively 20 years ago. We are doing it much better today. Around 20%, around a fifth of our energy mix now is renewable sources. We can do a lot better than that. We can go a lot further, and it removes us from the equation where we have to be bothered about what's going on in Russia.
Kevin, I'm going to have to stop you.
The more control we've got, the better.
Kevin, I'm going to have to stop you. Apologies for doing that, but we've just got a live coming in from Donald Trump. But really good to talk to you, Kevin McGeer. He is a former Labour advisor. Right, should we quickly cross over live to the United States where Donald Trump is speaking?
To have my friend who did such a good job at NATO, my great friend, right? So you really did. We started off, they had no money, and they ended up having a lot of money after we said, you got to pay up. But you did a fantastic job, and thank you very much. And I'm glad you're here. Glad we meet each other again under these circumstances. So we'll be meeting in a little while at the Oval Office, and if you have maybe 1 or 2 questions, we'll do it now. And after that, we'll go to the Oval. Yes.
Mr. President, on Russia, do you still believe that Putin is serious about peace, given the events overnight in Ukraine? And if that bombing doesn't end, are you considering new sanctions on Russia?
So we are thinking that very strongly that they both want peace, but they have to get to the table. We're waiting a long time. They have to get them to the table, and I think we're going to get peace. We want to save 5,000 young people. I used to say 2,500. I now say 5,000. We have, Mr. Prime Minister, we have about 5,000 young people a week that are dying in that ridiculous war. And, you know, I started out because I didn't like all the money that we were paying, and then I realized how many people were dying. And that's by far the more important element right now. I'm saying we can save thousands of people. And I don't like that it takes long at all, but I think they both want to make peace. I do believe so. There's a lot of hatred there. There's a lot of very bad blood, a lot of distrust. But I think I hope we're going to get there for the sake of a lot of young people that are dying.
Mr. President, do you have a deadline for when the party...
I have my own deadline. I have my own deadline, and we want it to be fast, and the Prime Minister is helping us. He wants it to be fast, too. And I think everybody in this, you know, at this time in NATO, they want to see this thing happen. So we have a deadline, and after that, we're going to have a very much different attitude. But I think it has a very good chance of getting done.
Mr. President, what can Norway do to prove that they're an important ally to the U.S.? What can Norway do?
Just keep doing what they're doing. We have a very good relationship with Norway. Great leader, great people. I know many of the people in Norway, and it's truly it's an incredible country. So all they have to do is keep doing what they're doing, I think, is probably the best answer I can give. Yeah.
As you pointed out, the former Secretary General of NATO is here.
Yes.
Mr. Stoltenberg, how important is the NATO defense alliance, Mr. President? Is it sacrosanct from your perspective?
Well, it's a very interesting question. It's certainly very important for Europe, and I think without us it wouldn't be as nearly as powerful. And as the former Secretary General, who did a great job, can tell you, I played when I was there a very big role in making sure that NATO is funded by the 28, at that time they had 28 countries, including us, because many of the countries weren't paid, and they ended up being paid, you would say, and the Secretary General was very, very nice about it, as far as I was concerned. Other presidents went in, they made a speech, and they left, and that kept going on, and, you know, in the meantime, they had no money. And the United States was paying far more than its fair share. You could say that they were paying, I actually said sometimes it looked like 100%, and it was unfair. And the two of us worked very well together, and we took care of the situation.
There are some
Mr.
President.
Yeah, please, go ahead.
Norwegian statistics are showing that the U.S. actually has a trade surplus with Norway. Are you going to be looking into that and see which of the countries are actually in a trade surplus?
Yeah, well, with the United States, almost everybody has a surplus.
But not
It's really an amazing phenomenon. No, there's a surplus of a couple of $2 billion, I think you have with us. I congratulate you. That's very good. We got to get a little bit of that for ourselves, maybe. But they do have a surplus. Norway has a surplus.
In the current tariff situation, analysts have pointed out that the U.S. actually need allies. Do you consider Norway as a possible ally in the situation?
I think Norway's always been an ally. They've been somebody we've been very close to, very friendly with. Maybe more so now with me than other people, but I think Norway's always been a great ally, yeah. Norway's been a friend.
That's a very strange question, actually, because the U.S. is our lead ally, and we build on a relationship which we will talk about now, Mr. President.
Yeah.
It's of high relevance, and I'm very happy that we have Secretary of State and Secretary of Defense. Right. So this is a very strong tie.
But it was a question about ally in the tariff situation specifically.
Tariff situation?
Yes.
Oh, well, that's we're talking about a little bit different subject. Then we're talking about a different type of ally. No, in this case, he would be very much inclined to be an ally of Norway because he wants to make the best business deal possible. And Norway and the Norwegians are great business people. They're great traders. They're great, very smart nation, very well-managed nation. Has been for a long time, and in particular now with this leadership. But we'll be talking about trade and other things, and I think we're going to come to a conclusion very quickly.
The question about Mr. Prime Minister. Mr. Prime Minister, I was wondering whether you think that Donald Trump, for his effort in Ukraine and otherwise, deserves to be nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize.
Well, I salute President Trump for having been taking very important initiatives to get this conflict towards an end which both parties deserve. We need to have a ceasefire, save lives, move towards something which is more secure for Europe, for the people concerned. And on that we work together. And I look forward to go into some details because we are at the critical moment. On that price, that is a committee taking care of that, which is completely working on its own terms, and I cannot comment on that.
Mr. President, a question on China.
But thank you very much for that question. I like that question. Yeah, please.
A question on China. Can you clarify with whom the U.S. is speaking with China? They're saying it's fake news that trade talks are happening.
Well, they had a meeting this morning, so I can't tell you. It doesn't matter what day is. We may reveal it later, but they had meetings this morning, and we've been meeting with China. And so I think you have, Jeff, as usual, I think you have your reporting wrong. Thank you very much. We'll see you. We'll see you inside. Thank you.
Thank you, Thank you. Everybody out.
So that was President Trump talking to the Norwegian Prime Minister. That's their first sort of big meeting together. And, of course, that was the sort of press where they start asking him questions. They started off discussing Ukraine. Oh, is he still speaking?
And beautiful people.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Okay, thank you. Head out.
All right, so they started talking about peace. Donald Trump said he looked into how many people were dying a week in the war between Russia and Ukraine. He pointed out 5,000 people a week were dying, and that if the war ended earlier, they could save thousands of lives. But there's a lot of distrust between the two countries, which is what he pointed out. He did look into also the trade surplus with Norway, because he's meeting the Norwegian Prime Minister, and pointed out that the US has pretty much a trade surplus with everyone, and a surplus is the amount of which a country's exports exceed the cost of its imports. And the main sort of thrust of the conversation was that Norway is an ally, more so with the United States and other people, and it sounds like they will come to a great trade deal. So we'll keep our eyes on that and bring you more as it evolves. Plenty more throughout the show as well. But if you are travelling home from work or school, here's the latest traffic and travel update. Don't forget to stay with us on digital and on radio.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Drivers are reminded of planned maintenance on the A726 eastbound at the College Milton Rail Bridge. Caution is advised. On the A48M, resurfacing continues westbound between Junction 29, A St Mellons and Junction 29 Castleton. The road is closed with diversions. In Northamptonshire, a broken-down vehicle causes a lane closure on the M1 northbound between Junction 15 and Junction 15A, but conditions should clear shortly. Expect slow-moving traffic on the M49 northbound in Bristol, where congestion between the M5 and the M4 leads to 10-minute delays. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
31 minutes after 5 o'clock. This is Britain's news channel. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Aquare. There's lots more still to come between now and 6 o'clock, including a latest study which shows the return of stop and search would cut knife crime deaths by a third. Well, who knew? But first, let's get your latest news headlines with Tatiana Sanchez.
Nana, thank you. The top stories. Well, US President Donald Trump is meeting the Prime Minister of Norway, as you've been hearing and seeing, where the leaders discuss security policy, NATO, the war in Ukraine and trade. The pair denounced Russia's overnight strikes on Kyiv. The US President railed against Russian President Vladimir Putin this morning as the US seeks to help broker a ceasefire agreement with Ukraine. They'll be holding a bilateral meeting later on this evening, so we'll bring you the latest as we get it. Elsewhere, Sir Keir Starmer told an energy summit in London today that the world has changed and that energy was at the heart of the global insecurity and local insecurity people are feeling. He spoke alongside the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen. Sir Keir welcomed Ms von der Leyen to Downing Street, where the two leaders have been discussing a defence deal on the sidelines of the summit. It comes as Sir Keir Starmer announced £300 million of funding for domestic offshore wind supply chains as part of a push to secure clean energy investment in the UK. The Prime Minister earlier said the fast-tracked funding would create jobs and strengthen UK security, as he called for international investment in British clean energy.
When it comes to energy, we are also paying the price for our overexposure over many years to the roller coaster of international fossil fuel markets, leaving the economy and therefore people's household budgets vulnerable to the whims of dictators like Putin, to price spikes and to volatility that is beyond our control.
And thousands more mourners have flocked to the Vatican today to pay their respects to Pope Francis as he lies in state. Viewing hours were extended overnight in order to accommodate the huge crowds gathering outside St. Peter's Basilica. Many more are expected to do so whilst the coffin remains there until the Pope's funeral on Saturday. Meanwhile, concerns around respect have been raised as people have been seen taking selfies and going live on TikTok while standing next to the coffin. The pontiff died on Monday after battling double pneumonia. He was 88. Those are the latest headlines for now. More from me at 6 o'clock.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
And here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound buying you $1.3309 and €1.1709. The price of gold is £2,504 and 49 pence per ounce. And the FTSE 100 closed at 8,407 points.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
He's not just the first Brit, he's the first European, is that
Correct.
right, to win the Grand Slam?
To win the Grand Slam. See, the Grand Slam is something that's never really mentioned because it's so rare to win all four majors. Well, this is what I was going to head to. Can you get closer, get back until we can hang out with Rory for a while?
Rory would be our mate.
He would be great. I think he'd get on great with us.
I tell you what he is. He's the most ordinary guy. You meet him. I remember one night, he's good company.
Yeah.
And I always thought that there was a weakness with him, that he was too friendly with too many people.
Yeah.
I mean, people I'll not name, but I remember, people at the height of their career and they're watching games or they're watching... I remember once with the snooker tournament, walking up to a player and saying, incidentally, when this is over, could I... And he just said, shut your mouth.
You are kidding me.
He did. Yeah, he turned
is he alive or is he dead?
Oh, he's very famous. And he said to me, never... And he was wearing sunglasses and he took them off. He said, never, ever interrupt me when I'm watching snooker. And, but I learned something from that,
Yeah, but come on.
I mean, it's rude, but you can kind of understand that some people need to kind of psychologically protect them. I don't know. And it must be frustrating sometimes when people interrupt you. But on the other hand,
but for me,
be a
Miriam,
nice
there's
guy.
no except bad manners.
No, I know.
There's no excuse for bad manners.
No, that's right.
At least you go, look, sorry, but...
I'm just concentrating at the moment. Can you speak to me later or something like that?
Please, you shut up.
But you were saying yesterday, I mean, he's now, one of the most famous, one of the most successful people from Northern Ireland. I think there was even a suggestion he should do an open-top bus tour.
Well, that was me yesterday.
Oh, was it you?
I think
Okay.
absolutely should, yeah.
Why?
Eamon.
Not today, it's very
Eamon will be driving the bus, and there'll be Rory there.
I have a bus with my picture on it.
I know, yes, I know. That's what they want. They just have the Eamon bus, Rory on the top, nobody on waving.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dewberry and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Acquia. Remember, you can get in touch at gbnews.com/your say. Let's see if I've got some emails of what people have been saying, because it's been a very, very busy show. Lots of people with lots of views on all the things we've been discussing. One of those things, of course, is stop and search, which, in my view, is an absolute must. But in others, a lot of people say that, oh, no, and I think it's a lot of liberals, a liberal elite, seem to think that it's unkind, it's unfair. But a new study conducted by Scotland Yard's former chief scientific officer claims that knife crime deaths could be reduced by a third if police brought back the widespread use of stop and search. And the study is the first of its kind and comes as official crime figures revealed a slight increase in the number of knife-related offences as police officers use stop and search less often. Well, let's speak to a man who's conducted this study, former Metropolitan Police Chief Scientific Officer, Professor Lawrence Sherman. Lawrence, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Now, you see, I, in my own view, see stop and search as a wise tool. I think you can do it with dignity, but I think it has to continue. Talk to me about the research and what you discovered.
Well, the research takes the facts of up and down numbers of stop and search right across London. It doesn't look at the particular locations. Less than a third of London is where all of the weapons crimes occur. And so doing stop and searches out of those areas of concentrated weapons crimes is not nearly as productive.
Right.
So if we can take this trend analysis that shows that when stop and search goes down, knife injuries, knife murders, they all go up. And we've had ups and downs in London over 15 years, just as they did in Chicago.
Right.
And the estimate is that when you have more stop and search compared to less in Chicago, they tracked 750 fewer murders when the stop and searches were used. Mainly because if people know the police may search them and they may have to go down to jail because they found a weapon, they may be much more likely to leave their weapon at home. When I was with the New York City Police Department, we started doing tube fare evasion, and 1 in every 50 persons arrested for jumping over the turnstile had a gun. Within a couple of years, it went up to 1 in 500.
Wow.
Because they knew they might get searched, and so either the people with the guns stopped jumping over the tubes, or generally what happens was that there was a lot less gun carrying. And, of course, this massive drop in homicide with the huge increase in stop and search across the late 90s all around the U.S. So the question really needs to be, how can we make the use of stop and search more focused, more precise, more proportionate to the places where it's happening, rather than just spreading it around at random, which doesn't really justify the psychological damage that young people have when they are searched, and all of the issues of trust and confidence that are raised. Although, fortunately, our research showed that when stop and search went up, trust and confidence didn't go down.
Right.
So there's no relationship between trust and confidence in stops, just murders and knife injuries.
See, that is the thing, isn't it? A lot of people call that profiling. It's wrong to profile, but I actually think it's important because then you can use your resource more scarcely. Do you know what I mean? It's a very scarce resource, so you can use it more targeted, and you don't have to waste time in areas just to show a sort of PR face that we're doing it everywhere.
Well, if you want to profile the most dangerous place per square foot in London, it's Leicester Square.
Is it?
And because we had 120 knife injuries in Leicester Square over a 2-year period, it came out #1 out of all of the little units we called hexagons. There's over 15,000 of them in London. And that was #1 at the top. Westminster, generally, with a high pedestrian density, tends to have a very high rate. And these are not predominantly minority areas.
Yeah.
So I think the confusion between race overall and the value of focused deterrence in particular places, I think has been debilitating to police officers who feel like they're being criticized just for doing their jobs. And then, of course, when 2 of them were fired in relation to a stop and search from 2020, that was, I think, a real main factor for the reduction in stop and search. It's not that there's ideological criticism nearly as much as it is that the current rules don't empower officers to focus on high violence places, high knife crime places, and to use those powers just in those places. And that's where I think the biggest improvement could come in supporting police to do their job without fearing they're going to lose their job.
Yeah, because it's interesting, because the number of police stop and searches plummeted in the early 2010s amidst concerns that they were being disproportionately used on black people, and claims that many as 250,000 may have been carried out illegally. What's an illegal stop and search?
Well, it's very imprecise in terms of the disagreement among anybody who it looks at stop and search. And even when we talk about the Section 60 searches, which are in dangerous areas, when I talk to lawyers about it, they say you can't make the use of Section 60 in the absence of specific intelligence that you or I are going to carry a knife and we're right over there, and then you can go do the search. And if you take the idea of risk seriously, which is how the law is written, it should be statistical risk. And we have places in London that are 20 times more dangerous than the rest of London. And to be able to focus on those places with more statistical confidence of the risk, we're not only going to see a overall reduction in murder, but we can make a dent in the 13 to 1, and that is young black men being 13 times more likely to be murdered than young white men the same age in London. That's the racial disparity that we have to start with. We can't have unequal protection of the law with that much more murder in one part of the population.
Of course, it's a lot of black people killing black people. So if you're listening, it's black people killing each other and the police actually intervening to protect black people, in particular black young men, from themselves. And of course, knife crime is prolific all over this country now, but this particular study was focused on
London,
wasn't it?
Which is the most diverse city in the country. What I think is important here is to acknowledge it's a difficult conversation to have. But I've been in Lambeth Town Hall and many places where parents are calling out for more stop and search. They just want them done more politely, using what we call procedural justice. I've trained thousands of Met officers in these concepts. I think the vast majority of them understand it. And there is, I think, an ongoing effort to be sure you're doing it right. At the same time, it tends to discourage doing more stop and search, especially where it's needed. So if we can get a consensus in the community that where we know where the stop and search can do the most good, that's where we ought to encourage police. Ultimately, it's their decision. It's not the mayor's decision. It's not the police commissioner's decision. It's each constable. Ever since 1361, that's the rule in this country. They have to make that decision. We want to give them the evidence to support their decision.
Very, very quickly, because we've got about 30 seconds here. Somebody's written in saying, Ian says you can decrease knife crime by making the sentences so harsh it wouldn't make sense to carry a knife. Would that actually deter people, just in your view?
As a practical matter, when you have a backlog of 75,000 cases not getting to Crown Court, anything having to do with prison punishments in overflowing prisons is not nearly as good as taking a knife away from somebody and taking 12 hours of their liberty away as they have to go down to the station house to be processed. That's what we have the evidence that is deterring them, losing their time, losing that little bit of liberty across thousands of cases.
All right, listen, thank you very much. It's really good to talk to you. I really appreciate your thoughts. That's the former Met Police Chief Scientific Officer, Professor Lawrence Sherman. Thank you very much for coming in. Right, fascinating. Send me your thoughts, gbnews.com/. But if you're in search of some winter sun, here is the forecast of some of the top European destinations.
dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
An unsettled spell of weather over the next few days across southeastern parts of Europe. Heavy showers and thunderstorms, but elsewhere mostly settled, plenty of sunshine. The odd shower affecting parts of Greece, also the Adriatic coastline. These could be heavy and thundery, but as we shift our way further west, mostly settled thanks to the Azores high, plenty of sunshine, though it just could be quite breezy at times across Madeira and Tenerife. The heavy showers are set to continue into Saturday, but from Sunday, lots of sunshine and feeling warm in that sunshine too.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Afternoon, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. For many, it's been another dry day. We are going to see a change overnight, though, particularly for Northern Ireland, where some wet weather is edging its way in. And once it's arrived, it's going to last for most of tomorrow. Some of that light rain will just graze into Pembrokeshire, maybe the odd spot for Cornwall too. The cloud thick enough for a little bit of drizzle at times on the eastern coast, but for most it's going to be a dry, fine evening, staying dry overnight. Some mist and fog patches are likely to form, and it will turn quite chilly. Well, we've got these clear skies, temperatures down well into single figures, and possibly in rural spots even a touch of frost. Not frosty in Northern Ireland, but it will be a soggy old day here on Friday. Rain on and off, some of it on the heavy side. Some of that rain will try and creep into Cornwall and Pembrokeshire, maybe Anglesey too and the Clean Peninsula, but generally across England and Wales it's dry. Quite a grey start across these eastern areas, quite breezy in Northern Ireland as well as those pulses of rain, which will just brush into western Scotland too. So the west coast here likely to see some rain and drizzle on and off, and that rain is going to get more persistent over the Outer Hebrides through the day. The clouds across these eastern areas should break up as we go through the day to reveal some spells of sunshine, and as I said, most places will stay dry, but it will be a very soggy day for Northern Ireland. Some quite heavy bursts of rain likely, especially in the south, and the rain pepping up in western Scotland too. So feeling quite cool here, feeling quite cool on some North Sea coast where temperatures could struggle, but for many, with a bit of sunshine, temperatures getting into the mid or even high teens, feeling quite pleasant with some sunny spells. Now that cloudier zone just edges a bit further east for Saturday, so quite grey for a good chunk of Scotland, Wales, the Midlands, southwest England. There'll be some showers. A drier day for Northern Ireland, staying largely fine across eastern England with some sunny spells. And again, feeling quite warm when the sun's out. Temperatures getting into the mid to high teens for many places, and some warmer weather certainly across the south by the time we get to Sunday.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. I'm Nana Aquir in for Martin Daubney on GB News. Now, archaeologists say the bite marks found on a skeleton of a Roman gladiator found in York are the first archaeological evidence of combat between a human and a lion. Not only did the wound not heal, suggesting the bite was fatal, but the presence of the bite marks also reveals that the Romans also certainly brought lions to Yorkshire. Well, to tell us more is historian Tony McMahon. Hello, Tony.
Hello, good afternoon.
Oh, what a fabulous beard you have.
Oh, thank you, thank you. I've waxed the moustache as well for you.
And the moustache, look at that.
I've got a little Roman cup as well for you here.
Oh, lovely. It's a sort of duo colour. Oh, wow, look at that, look at that.
2,000 years old, there you are.
Yes.
Might have been spent by that gladiator.
Yes, so talk to me about that then.
Well, this skeleton was actually found in 2004, but they've been able to use new 3D scanning techniques, and they even apparently looked at bite marks that lions make in London Zoo as part of the analysis. But what it shows is that the arenas that were here in Britain, we reckon there were about 18 of them, even this one in York, they were much more like the Gladiator movie that we all know. They were putting on full-on gladiator fights, and they were shipping over lions and other beasts for the entertainment of British Romans. Because I think before we thought, oh, maybe gladiator fights over here were a bit naff and pathetic, you know, with, I don't know, a bear or something like that. But no, they were bringing lions over, and this poor guy, aged between about 26, 35, was obviously bitten in the pelvis. Don't know what he was doing, because they normally go for the neck. So he was probably doing some acrobatic or fighting the lion in some way, and the lion just got him where it hurts the most, and he died of it.
Crunched into his head. Yeah, but how did they get the lions? Very briefly, cracking, we're running out of time. But how did we get the lions? How did they get the lions from Africa?
Yeah, actually, they even hunted some tigers and lions to extinction in Asia as well. But yeah, North Africa would have been an obvious place, and they shipped them over. So you've got to imagine a ship arriving in York. Here's your lions, and they're taken to the local arena for the entertainment of people in York 2,000 years ago. That's what was not football in those days. You went down to the arena to watch somebody fighting for their life with a lion.
I can't imagine that anyone won, frankly, could they? Do we know?
Not really.
No, you just get eaten, isn't it? It's just unfortunate, but the reality of that particular situation. All right, well, listen, it's fascinating. Were you surprised by the revelation that lions were transported?
I think so. I think we thought that, gladiator fights and arenas were just slightly a bit like a circus in this country, but it really shows that the arenas in this country were every bit as gory, every bit as exciting, amazing as Rome.
Tony McMahon, thank you very much. Well, at 6, it's Dewberry and Co, and we can now speak to the queen of primetime TV, Michelle Dewberry.
Thank you, Nana. What a treat as well to have you this afternoon. Look, we've got a lot that we need to discuss tonight. It'll be all the usual stuff. Of course, I want to talk to you about things like energy, but I also want to ask you, in this country, you're allowed £16,000 in savings before the cut-off to receive benefits. A report out today, though, says that that amount of money needs to be higher. Do you agree with that? How much money should you be able to have in the bank if you want to get taxpayer assistance? All of that, lots more. I'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Afternoon, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. For many, it's been another dry day. We are going to see a change overnight, though, particularly for Northern Ireland, where some wet weather is edging its way in. And once it's arrived, we're going to last for most of tomorrow. Some of that light rain will just graze into Pembrokeshire, maybe the odd spot for Cornwall too. The cloud thick enough for a little bit of drizzle at times on the eastern coast, but for most it's going to be a dry, fine evening, staying dry overnight. Some mist and fog patches are likely to form, and it will turn quite chilly. Well, we've got these clear skies, temperatures down well into single figures, and possibly in rural spots even a touch of frost. Not frosty in Northern Ireland, but it will be a soggy old day here on Friday. Rain on and off, some of it on the heavy side. Some of that rain will try and creep into Cornwall and Pembrokeshire, maybe Anglesey too and the Clean Peninsula, but generally across England and Wales it's dry. Quite a grey start across these eastern areas, quite breezy in Northern Ireland as well as those pulses of rain, which will just brush into western Scotland too. So the west coast here likely to see some rain and drizzle on and off, and that rain is going to get more persistent over the Outer Hebrides through the day. The clouds across these eastern areas should break up as we go through the day to reveal some spells of sunshine, and as I said, most places will stay dry, but it will be a very soggy day for Northern Ireland. Some quite heavy bursts of rain likely, especially in the south, and the rain pepping up in western Scotland too. So feeling quite cool here, feeling quite cool on some North Sea coast where temperatures could struggle, but for many, with a bit of sunshine, temperatures getting into the mid or even high teens, feeling quite pleasant with some sunny spells. Now that cloudier zone just edges a bit further east for Saturday, so quite grey for a good chunk of Scotland, Wales, the Midlands, South West England. There'll be some showers. A drier day for Northern Ireland, staying largely fine across eastern England with some sunny spells. And again, feeling quite warm when the sun's out. Temperatures getting into the mid to high teens for many places. And some warmer weather, certainly across the south, by the time we get to Sunday.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Motorists on the M80 northbound at Junction 5 should expect delays due to a road incident. The A48M westbound between M4 Junction 29A St Mellons and M4 Junction 29 Castleton is closed for resurfacing, with diversions in place. In North Lincolnshire, the M180 eastbound between Junction 3 and Junction 4 has a lane closure for vehicle tyre change, with normal traffic expected soon. Warwickshire's A5 southbound between the M42 and the A444 is experiencing congestion. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors